audience why you're keen to find out what my type is in this system.
All right. Well, I think sometime this year, I want to say in the spring of this year, I got into what was I trying to say? I mean, it's a system that's relatively new in the West. In the East, a guy called Afanasyev. Sorry, I forgot the name. But a guy with
Alexander Afanasyev, yeah.
Afanasyev, yeah. Okay, yeah, I just say that right. Okay, so yes, that guy wrote a book called The Syntax of Love, and he proposed 24 types of different people who have different, I guess, different dispositions to. Can you still hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So different dispositions to various aspects of life, and some people have taken his work and sort of developed into a full-fledged theory of types. He basically outlined some types, not dissimilar to what Jung did in psychological types. He sort of did the same thing, and then people took his work and then made their own sort of variations on that theory. Today, yes.
Bradley, what is the timeline for all of this? When was this created?
I can't remember. I know it's fairly recent. Let's see how quickly I can pull it up.
When you say fairly recent, do you mean 80s, 90s, 5 years ago?
I want to say 90s.
Right.
Yeah.
And would you say that it has been influenced by Socionica?
No.
Ah.
I know some people in the socionic circles have picked it up, but the theory itself is very separate from socionics.
Was it marketed? How was it marketed? Was it marketed as they didn't even mention socionics, or did they sort of contrast themselves to socionics in their way? Because you know what I mean. Like if you're there in Russia and you're in Ukraine and you're presenting this Psyche Yoga thing, and some of the people that you're presenting this new theory to may have heard of socionics, are you going to say, did they contrast their system to socionics, or act as if socionics never existed?
No. Okay. To my knowledge, not the latter, but more the former. It's actually a good segue into attitudinal psyche. So I will briefly say that every known, at least in all the circles I run in, most of what's known about the system in the Eastern world is that a lot of people who are already into socionics sort of use Afanasyev's work as a sort of complement to socionics, and they actually make the distinction of saying that just because you are socionics type doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be type in the other system. So they actually make a very concerted effort to have the systems in two distinct boxes, and they will type you one in. So I flipped one socionics type and then one psychosophy type, and they will try and present a bigger picture with both systems individually. So they do try and keep it separate.
And on Bradley's advice, I have put Psyche Yoga outside of the Jungian compatible folder.
Yes.
And I classified it as semi-Jungian.
It's not even semi-Jungian. They're parallels to Jung, but that has nothing to do with his work, really. So what we're going to be talking about today is a person. I think he goes by Zeke, but his full name is Rob Zeke Colopi, and he has developed his own type indicator based on the work of Afanasyev called Attitudinal Psyche. So we're going to be taking the Attitudinal Psyche test on video. You're still muted.
Thanks,
Okay.
Bradley. Yeah, I'm terrible at that. So yeah, so we're going to go through the test in a moment. So this is a sort of an overview of their stack. If you sort of compare it to the MBTI stack of
I suppose
auxiliary,
it's
they're
yeah. So
equivalent,
right, except
but in a different system.
Yeah, different system. So some things to know. If you're going to use the stack terminology, then it's important to know that there are 24 types in this system as opposed to the 16 of MBTI, and there are no real opposites. So it's not like sensing, intuition, and feeling and thinking are opposites. There are 4 aspects, but they aren't in opposition to each other. So you can have the 4 aspects in attitudinal psyche are physics, which is spelled with a P but notated with an F. That's going to be like everything involved in the physical world. Logic, abbreviated with an L, sort of everything in the more theoretical, non-physical, abstract theories, sort of
Bradley,
like that. Mm-hmm.
I just want to ask something about the maths of how they got to 24 types. Is it say they called each of these factors A, B, C, and D? Is it like
he's
is it so? Wait a minute. Are there wait a minute. Are there 24? Have they got to 24 by basically the different arrangements of those four factors?
Exactly.
Right. Okay.
Yeah. So I'll elaborate that in a bit. But so there's physics, there's logic, there's emotions, E, and that's sort of like emotions. It's sort of like expressing emotions, but it's also how freely you can express your emotions, how freely you can express your imagination. So I think it's more stereotypical when people say they have good intuition. It's not like the Jungian intuition. It's just like they have sort of like a gut reaction sort of thing. Emotions is sort of like how freely you offer those gut instincts.
Right. So I'll just say, say to the audience. So what I've picked up. So because you've not got the dichotomy of say thinking versus feeling, where in a code, say an MBTI code, you can only have T or F. In this, you'll see there next to Bradley, he's got L and E. And so it's just the ordering of those. So there's not so dichotomies are out of the window, and it's about the ordering of those 4 factors.
That's not entirely true. The dichotomies of the aspects are out the window, but they're still their own dichotomies. Like in the graphic, I'll get into that. Okay, back to emotion. So third aspect, we have physics with an F, logic with an L, emotions with an E. So it's like yes, your emotions, and then just expressing yourself authentically, like sort of like art. It's basically anything that invokes emotional state, and anything that can influence your emotional well-being and how you influence the emotions of other people around you, sort of thing. So that's emotions, and then volition, which is V. It's sort of like it's not necessarily about volition. It's more about willpower and goals and responsibilities and things that inform your volition. So it's sort of like how do you decide what you're responsible for? How do you decide what your priorities are? Is this priority something that you want established by other people? Is what you're responsible for something that you yourself have the answers to? And that sort of, I think that's probably a good segue into this graph, how there are minuses and pluses and I's and U's. So the I is essentially self and everything that you think you can do. And the U is essentially everyone else outside of you and what you think they can do. So anything that has a 1+ is basically self-positive. So you think that you can handle everything involved in the aspect. You think that you can handle the physical world. You think you can handle logical dispositions and theories. You think you can handle emotions, emotional reactions. You think you can express yourself authentically. And volition, you think that you can establish what you need to be responsible for, what you need to prioritize, sort of like goal setting. And then the U plus is for other people, you think other people can do all those things. So I would actually like to start with the second function. It's something that you feel like you can do and other people can do. So sort of, it's called the flexible function. It's since you think that you can do it and you think other people can do it, you're very open to every aspect of that aspect of life. You're open to the aspect of life. You think other people can do it and you think you can do it. So it's more like you can facilitate a dialogue between you and other people where it's like, okay, this is what I think about this aspect. What do you think about this aspect? You can sort of like have a very open conversation where you can, it's very inclusive basically. So you're able to offer your, the I plus, you can offer your own insights into the aspect, and you can also incorporate the insights of other people's aspects. So like 2F is second physics or flexible physics, where you think that you can handle, you know, what's sort of like food choice, clothing choice, sort of like maybe like furniture or sort of sports or even like computers, anything that sort of requires physical interactions and manipulating the environment in a very physical way. You sort of think that you can do it and you don't need other people's help, but also you think that other people can do it as well as you can. So even though you don't need the help, you will accept the help. So if you think of the whole stereotypical thing of like when people are talking, if you think about like a cooking channel where everyone's sort of like presenting their food and everyone's giving critiques on how everyone's dishes and like, I like this, I don't like this is what you should do to make the dish better. It's sort of like a very open conversation about food, which is one aspect of the physical environment. If that makes sense. And then the above that, the first function is that you think that you can do it, but you're skeptical that other people can. So it's like you think it's your responsibility to tell other people tell other people exactly how to handle the aspect. So in terms of using the second physics example, the first physics example is dominant, as you can see in the phrase following the semicolon. It's very dominant in that you think that you can handle it better than everyone else. So it's like you basically, you know what food you like, you know what food's best for you, you know what clothes to wear, you know what furniture, what kind of beds fits you the best. You know what exercise regimens work for you, you know what sorts of cameras and computers you like to use. And how impositional, there's, I guess, sort of, you're not necessarily guaranteed to push all this stuff on, but you can if you need to. So you will see some nuance, and other people in their first function just sort of do their own thing and don't really openly tell other people what to do. And then other people can feel like they're being provoked and will sort of like react very not like the back and forth of the second, but very one way, sort of like dominating you in terms of what they think that they should be doing. And in very rare circumstances, their opinion on what you should be doing as well. The third function, if you want to skip to if I guess we're going to skip to the third function, where it's the complete opposite of the second function, is to where you think that you can't do it, you cannot do it, and you also think other people can't do it. So it's both self-negative and others negative. So it's basically the major source of neurosis, because you think that you can't do it and then you're not sure who to turn to because you think everyone else is also bad at it. So if we want to use the third physics example, it's sort of like it's hypochondriac is being a hypochondriac is sort of the best way to describe it in a word. It's sort of like you are unsure of your own well-being. You're chronically unsure of like what foods to eat, what computers to use. You're constantly wondering. You're asking other people about like what they think about what sort of clothes, food, etc. you should wear, and you're second guessing them as well as second guessing yourself. So it will be easy to see once we sort of get into the theory, but I will say like for now, if you want to conceptualize green as safe and gray is not safe, I think that's probably the good way to think about it. 4 is unlike 3, you think that other people can do it, but you think that you can't do it. So you're very open to other people. You have no solid ideas about how to handle the aspect yourself, and you're constantly enacting and manifesting the sort of like the advice of other people. So it's essentially like you're a sponge and you're just taking everything, soaking everything up and just sort of holding everything in and then squeezing out exactly what you took in. So there's no, there's very little of your own input, and it's mostly coming from other people. And I think that sort of, and the result process. So the 2 in the middle is more constantly forming, and the ones in the end, the results are more static. So, I mean, process results is probably the best way I can use to describe it. It's things in the middle are a process, and it's an ongoing journey, and you're constantly reframing and reforming the attitudes in the middle, and then the aspects on the end are a result, and you're constantly concerned about the destination, and you just want it to sort of be taken care of and dealt with. You don't sort of want to focus on the nuances of the aspects. Like for physics, it's like you constantly are thinking about what's best, food, health, clothes, etc. in every individual situation. And for results, you basically want a hard and fast rule. And it's like, I want this sort of food at this time, and I'm gonna have this food every single day for the foreseeable future. That's a very crude example, and it's not in actuality like that. But if you want to think of like the 2 ends of the spectrum, the result and the process, the result is very not willing to be changed, and the process is all about responding to outside stimuli, sort of thing. And I think that summarizes this, and then we'll sort of, when we're taking the test, I'll sort of reinforce the theory based on actual examples. Okay, so now I'd like to take any questions if anyone has anything.
I'll just say, so I was just looking at this idea of the way they're doing it by stackings and getting 24 types that way. I've just noticed that this is what they've done with true colors. They don't just say someone say, they have this thing where it's like, I'm not going to do a massive thing on this, but it's like they'll say somebody is like blue, gold, orange, green, and they have like those 4 combinations, and you get to 24 types. So it's a little bit like that, and I've just learnt about in the past month or so about true colors from Sabrina.
So can you pull up the theory part of the website?
Right. Yep. Okay. Yep. I'm just gonna switch to it now.
All right. All right. So yeah,
I had to change from the image viewer.
Perfect. Yeah.
Right.
So yeah, if you just want to, so that's the 4 aspects are right there: the physics, logic, volition, and emotion. And then if you scroll down a bit more, and then the first, second, third, fourth is exactly the same as you saw in the first picture, and then even more, and then you see the aspects being plugged into the attitude.
The USB stick, yeah.
Yeah, the USB stick. So yeah, you can think of it like that way, and then this is it. This is what the stack looks like when you combine everything: is confident physics, flexible emotion, insecure logic, oblivious volition, and this type is just called the. I mean, there are two names. There's the functional name, which is just the letters in order. So 1F, 3E. Sorry,
Yeah,
can you?
I was just wondering if they did that deliberately, as you said, plugging it in, as they do look like USB sticks, and
right.
so.
So actually scroll down.
Right.
Yeah. So 1F, 2E. Okay. Well, confident physics is also called 1F. Flexible motions is also called 2E. Insecure logic is also called 3L, and oblivious volition is also called 4V. So the 1F, 2E, 3L, 4V stack basically gives you the type FELV. Sorry, it's slight dyslexia. FELV. And I can't remember the actual nickname for that type, but the FELV is how it's generally referred to as someone who has these attitudes plugged into, these aspects on the right, plugged into the USB sticks on the left. What thing is that showing up?
Oh, wait a minute. I'll just the reason I went a bit wrong there is because I wanted to invite somebody, and so just going to send the link to Laura because I've seen that Laura's in the chat.
Oh, okay. Yeah, she knows a lot about the system too. So
yeah,
let me just. I pulled. Oh, okay. Oh, okay. So I just pulled up the YouTube chat so I can see Laura's and Zeke's comments. All right. So can you scroll down? I want to see if there's anything else.
Okay.
Right. So yeah, as you can see here, each of the four types sort of form their own. I mean, it's a quadra except there's 6 of them, so it's a sexta, but the principle is the same. There's 4 types in a grouping, and the 4 types form their own sort of attitude towards the various aspects of life, and they're referred to by
what determines the grouping? What is the common? What determines that these 4 are together?
The results in the process. So if you want to compare the of the inner row, the first and the last letter are both F and E.
Right.
And the second and the third are both V and L. So they both have V and L in the middle, so process, volition, and process logic, and they both have F and E on the outside.
Well, what I would have done is I would have used the word where like maybe starts with the letter and ends with the letter. Let's like come up with a word that's maybe something like that.
Do you have like a example so you can sort of like picture it?
No, but maybe like I said, these ones. So for instance, with Dio or Dio, like it's always like start with L or end in E. I just thought they could have named it with a word.
Oh, so easy to remember.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, got it. Well, I mean, it's literally just like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You want to go?
Because you've got like pence and trio,
right?
And Dio,
and tessera, right? So, I mean, yeah, you could. That's one way to do it, but yeah. So in terms of like the whole 24 types things, you'll see like if you want to look at the trio, the tessera, and the penti, you'll see types with V first, and then you'll see types with L second, F second, and E second. So it's not like you're guaranteed to. It's not like Myers-Briggs where if you're like FE lead, you have to have SI or NI second. It's you can have any of the that is second because they're not opposites. So if you want to, actually, if you keep it the same, if you look at tessera, the last type of tessera has first logic and second emotions, or confident logic and flexible emotions. And if you are used to a more traditional or a more popular Jungian outlook, you're used to seeing logic first and emotions last. That's not the case here. You can have, if you have logic first, you can have emotions second, third, or fourth. So you can have like, if you want to set type next to it, that's logic first, emotions third. And right next to that, the original type of, sorry, I'm getting bogged down with terminology. If you just want to compare the two types of tessera on the right, you'll see that neither of them have emotions at the end, even though they have logic at the beginning. So that's basically what I'm saying, is that you won't necessarily see logic and emotions on opposite ends.
Right. Gotcha.
Okay, so I think that does it for like the basics of the theory, and then I can sort of talk through the. I guess when Jonathan gets back, we can take the test.
Yeah.
Do you have any? Oh, yeah, I guess.
I'll just say Laura's gonna join soon.
Cool. All right. That's good. So yeah, Laura's a type with first logic and second emotions, so maybe she'll be able to describe more what that's like than I'm doing so right now. Okay, so Jonathan, are you ready to take the test?
Yes. Am I doing it? Or...
Sorry?
I thought Ben was doing it, but okay.
Yeah. I'm going to do it. I'm just going to, it means
okay.
I'm going to close all these other windows so that I'm not not distracted. And so now I'm going to change to sharing the window, or showing the Chrome tab for the test, and and maximizing it.
All right. So go on.
He's going to push them here, Ben.
Okay, so B is before J in the alphabet, so I'll go first. Although 1 is before 6. All right.
Okay, so I mean, you don't have to. We can skip. I'll just basically explain the test. So this is, as you can see on the, if you want to look at the toolbar on the toolbar, if you want to look at the contents bar on the top of the screen, on the right and the left, it's the 4th iteration of the test. So Rob, the guy I mentioned earlier, has gone through various iterations of the test, and he sort of combined all the best parts of each of the previous 3 iterations to make the final, current, most recent 4th version. So yeah, this is the only, I shouldn't say only, this is the, I don't want to feel like I'm putting words into people's mouths, but I want to say this like this is the most prominent version of the Attitudinal Psyche test. There are various versions out there on the internet, but this is the only one developed by the progenitor of the Attitudinal Psyche theory based on the work of Afanasyev. So wait, it's skipping ahead too much. So I will say that if you want to learn about the Attitudinal Psyche theory, this is probably the best place to start. So the previous screens are basically is giving you your enter your name and then your type if you know it, just like your best guess, and then it's asking you to enter in various descriptions, like how you see yourself, so sort of like the way you identify yourself. But that is optional. But if you can do it, I do recommend that you do, because it will help you sort of pass through your results more accurately. But you can actually skip. You don't have to answer every single question. You can skip some. So just so you know. So this first question, so I guess you can sort of talk through it.
Right. That sounds a bit. That sounds like it's written by an NF for the energy and vision you've decided for yourself.
Energy and vision. Yeah, I think, well, vision is sort of related to, because I think what he's going for here is that your vision informs your responsibilities. So if you have a picture in your mind and you want to fulfill that vision, then
yeah. I know what it means. It just sounds like it's written by an idealist. They love the use of the word energy.
So does anything? So to talk.
I'll try to process this badly, and so I'll give a proper answer.
All right. I mean, you can talk out loud about what you're thinking too.
Yeah, but I'm processing it first, and the audience can also do their own processing of how they would answer it.
All right.
Because it's called attitudinalpsyche.com. So the audience, right? So the audience can play along at home as they watch the video.
All right.
Well, I do consider the opinion of others. So, ooh, that is true though. Because I do agree with quite a bit of that first statement.
All right. So I guess if you want to take it a step at a time. Hey, Laura. So if you want to take it a step at a time, what do you think about the first statement when you put it against the next? So which one sounds? How are you getting other people to think about their responsibilities, or are you just thinking about your own?
Well, I'm definitely more the top one than the second one.
Mm-hmm.
Hi.
Hey, Laura.
Hi.
And then what about the third one compared to either the first or the second? Can you think of one that's can you eliminate one, or are they all equally relevant?
Well, I'm deciding between the I would say the key word there, considering. Mm-hmm. I do consider the opinion of others. Oh, there's a little bit of there was a little bit of feedback.
Yeah. Laura, are you wearing headphones, or I think we're hearing some of this down?
No, I can put some on.
Yeah, okay. I will mute you in the meantime. There might be a question coming up. You spend a long time thinking about your answers on these tests. Yes.
There may or may not be a question like that. But I mean, I think we can skip this question.
It's a pretty long test. If you're gonna take this long every time, we're not gonna be done today.
Right.
So this will come back in some way, shape, or form in another question. So
Okay, do that first one next.
Okay, all right.
Well, not the first one.
Okay.
In that fourth one, it wouldn't be paying attention to the emotions to see what's important to the situation. It would be paying attention to the emotions of somebody else. For not about the situation, it would be about them. It wouldn't be doing it to find out what is appropriate in the situation. It would be like having empathy and sympathy for that particular person. So
I think what you said is a dead giveaway for what you're definitely not. I think what's going on in the someone who is paying attention to other people and how they want to express themselves is that they're generally unconcerned with how they express themselves. So they like to not think about it and just sort of like react spontaneously. And if they get blowback from other people, if they sort of like record it in their minds, like not to do it again because they know it's going to get a bad reaction. Because if you think about when you upset people, there are various reactions to like what you can do with someone once you accept them. You can tell them to get over it. You can try and understand why they're upset, or you can just go and be like, I'm sorry that upset you. I won't do that again. Or basically, there's various outcomes.
Yeah, I would try to understand why they're upset.
Okay.
And I would actually take it as a slight against myself for having made that mistake. Because I would say that would be a loss of FI points in not being able to know what the reaction would be.
Okay, so yeah, let's go with that. How much emphasis do you put on establishing how much of it is it at the forefront of your mind that you are paying attention to how you come across?
That is tricky because in the moment I get enthusiastic and I get carried away with the notion.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like on that roll of it. And now what I do, what you might notice with me on Facebook now is I'll send a message, then unsend it. Because I'll like send a message in the moments of any of the notion of the let's do this, it gets excited, and then I'll think again, that might not be the right thing, and then take it away. So outside of the moment,
mm-hmm.
I can then think of that wasn't the right thing. But it's but I would say that there is always a filter there.
Yes. Okay, but that's key. So yeah.
This actually gets relevant now. So that debate I did with Jack,
mm-hmm.
where there I was keenly aware of how I was coming across and altering my display based on the interview, because I did the Model G versus Model A on Jack's channel, and I knew it was his crowd. And my intention going in was not really to have a debate, but was to explain the model and to just to present the model and almost ignore what he was saying from the point of, well, not so much ignore what he was saying, but from the point of view of arguing against him and proving it wrong. But primarily my thing was to explain the model. And so if he raised a particular point that was a good point, it's like, okay, and plus I had a lot of preparation help as well. But in terms of I was controlling my state.
Right.
So that I was it's weird. I had an inner state, and then within that, so I had an inner state of sort of, I put myself in a sort of a positive state inside, but deep inside that state was how I truly felt. So I had to have a double level of it. Okay, so when you looked at my face and my body language, I was like effing it, but I did not enjoy it because it's like there was this like core of FI surrounded by FE whilst I was doing the video, and I was not enjoying it about halfway through. But then I sort of like got a second wind as things, and I got carried along by the NE as I went through. Okay. I don't know if that helps any, or if you have any questions about that.
I mean, yeah, it does. I think we can safely take away the. Well, I have a very strong opinion of that type already, but I'll try not to skip ahead. I think we can take away the first option, the last option, because it seems like you are very conscious that every situation is different, and you want to respond accordingly to every situation, and you're constantly passing through situation by situation as it's happening in real time. And you're not really feeling like it's overly cumbersome or exhausting. You feel like you feel like you're able to constantly assess emotional reactions of others and constantly,
It's also level of comfort, discomfort on a sort of like level which is probably going to come in with like SE allergic kind of stuff, where you're going to, I think SE allergic people are extra sensitive to comfort with when they know they're in a uncomfortable situation. And also I think I get a little bit NE counterphobic in that okay, I'm feeling uncomfortable, but I'm going to try and like come back with positivity, like to like change my own state away from the discomfort and try to like change my sort of change my own state to a more positive state.
Okay. Yeah, we'll continue this in another question. Right. So just
Right. So you want to move on to the next one? Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
It might have helped. Did you recently see my video called Ben's FI?
No, I haven't.
Right. That
Sorry,
might
help. Where is this Ben's FI video?
Well, it's one of the more recent ones. It's something like how Ben uses FI, something like that. And it was about an idea of like an example of what role FI in. It was with Wojtek and Sana.
Okay, I'll have to look back and see if I can find it.
Okay, so this is the next one. Let's see how Jonathan's going along with this. Please choose the option.
He actually stepped away. He wants to redo it when it's okay. He wants it to be fresh for him. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, but that's nearly everybody, though.
Are you sure about that?
Well, there are certain weirdos who like flipping E3 people. It's like, oh, I'm going to buy that expensive bag because it's expensive, even if they. But usually, though, you've got the subjective theory of value.
Okay, so point of clarity here. When you say E3, you mean Enneagram 3, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Because you know that there's an E3 E.
Yeah, emotions. Yeah.
Okay.
Also, no, not everyone has an innate sense of value.
Exactly.
I mean, it's a little unclear to me what it means in the system, but no, absolutely not. Not everyone. I think it's something that has to be learned. Like you have to learn to manage your finances, preferably when you're growing up.
Yeah, but that's to say that not everyone necessarily feels that way. I know I don't. So,
but like I said, I mean, that's just the thing of like the value of like I said, the value of an object is subjective, and it also depends on what it's compared to. But I don't want to get into an economics debate about that.
Right.
Yeah, let's not.
Yeah, let's not, and just trust us on this one. We're two F4s here, and both of us are telling you that's not the case.
Yeah. So if you, I mean,
what's not the case?
Not that it's not an innate quality that everyone has.
Well, I mean, this question is kind of pointing towards, are you confident? I mean, to some extent, are you confident in this, or are you not confident?
But it's not that clear for everyone.
Yeah,
for a lot of people, it's not that clear.
Right. I mean, like for myself, if it's an everyday object that I'm pretty familiar with, I might have some sense of its value. But if it's something that I'm not that familiar with, I'm not going to know. Like if I'm like I don't know much about cars. If I'm going to go buy a new car, I might not have a good sense of, am I getting a good deal on this car or not, unless I can compare multiple outside sources and then get a reference point.
Okay. Yeah, very good. So it seems like you finally found one that you know.
Just clear. Just clear.
Okay, that's good.
Right, I'm going to take my headphones off, so I'm going to have a good long think about this.
Okay, we'll resume in 1 hour.
Yes, very good. Yeah, so I guess this is a very good, this is a very good example of how people take the test, I suppose. So I've actually never seen anyone else take it besides me, obviously. So this is a very cool experience.
Yeah, I take it very, very fast. I just, well, I mean, not like, a second per question, but definitely I don't spend a lot of time thinking about it.
I actually relate to all four of these, in different situations.
Interesting. Okay.
Okay, so I can give you an example of a big change. I read something in Typology. This is a huge change, and this is when I was reading Van der Hoop and how he reframed Sensang. He completely, he almost puts two fingers up to Carl Jung, and when he goes, well, I don't think it should be sensing. I think it's instinct, and I no longer see it as a perceiving function. Right, and I was thinking that, and I went, bloody hell, he's right. Perception is related to the divine, and like the way he was thinking about instinct, and it's like it completely goes against the like a lot of the Jungian things, which are, this is a judging function, this is a perceiving function, and says that instinct includes emotion. And he's split emotion and feeling between those two. And it's like, and the way he framed it, it's like, wow, this sounds really like the way Kersey thinks of artisans and guardians. And I was prepared to shift that position But it was when I looked at it and I heard, because usually what mounts up is I go, does that work in real life? Does that reflect reality? Yes, that matches reality more. Now, I remember initially reading a Robert McKee book, another example of where I changed a lot, but then it took up to about 100 pages before I went, bloody hell, it's right. But I had a lot of resistance because remember my mindset is like creative subtype and wanting to do things my own way. And his book, Robert McKee's book, Story, was all about there is a way to write a story. There are principles. There are the rules. And so he went through after those 100 pages, he's right, bloody hell, he's right, there are principles. The difference between principles and then formulas, because these other books would talk about formulas in writing stories. You got to do this at this part of the story and that and that. But by the time he got to those principles and like the gap between the subjective and objective realms, and I'm like, bloody hell, it's right. You see that? So that was going against the resistance. So I will listen to other people and change if there's evidence for it, in empirical evidence. I bow down to empirical evidence. So when Sana says to me, but LSI fits my LSI friend really well, after, well, I can't argue with that. That's the empiricals. If that type model really fits her friend better than any other system, then I can't argue with that. So when it's like an empirical, practical result, I put my hands up. I can't argue with the practice, the reality, the evidence.
I have to point out though that it's not easy to get you to change your mind. Like it takes a lot of work, a lot of convincing, a lot of arguing. Like we argue typology so much. Most of it not in videos that are public, mostly just in private. But we argue a lot. And eventually there's very slow, gradual change in how he views a certain system-related issues. But it's not like he's just by default open to what he's told if he's already made up his mind on something.
Well, yeah, but a lot of that though is based on like.
You can still listen to all opinions of people, but you still have your own opinion.
Yeah, I go on the empirical data.
Hard to change, but
though. So it's like when anyone like contradicts Kersey, I'm like, ooh, that's gonna be a tough battle.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter what kind of data you require. I'm just saying that you're not really by default open to everybody else's point of view once you have a stance on an issue.
Well, yeah, that's because I've already thought about it.
Yeah, and you don't easily shift. That's the thing. It's like you stay where you are until there's a great deal of evidence that forces you to change it.
Yeah, and that happened with the Model G sensory introverts.
Yeah, I noticed, and it's it happens slowly with various, and I'm pretty persistent, so I will keep on nagging until there's.
Yeah, and I would say that just like with those profiles where I went through them, and I did them in red where it contradicts the temperament with the sensory introverts. I did that with the other ones because I'm looking for things lining up. So you have to know that I'm doing it the other way too, where I'm going through these when I go through the Kersey profiles and I compare it to say the Galenka Model G, I'm thinking about it line by line as like which function is this relating to, which IME is this relating to, and then when I go for the Galenka profiles, especially with the sensing types, I'm looking for where it sounds artisan, where it sounds guardian.
Yeah, as I said, it's very meticulous, very like it's like heavy shifting. You don't shift lightly. That is, I think, very characteristic of you.
Also, something that Sana made me aware of recently, which is a hugely important thing, is that Sana doesn't go off the profiles. She goes off the theory that creates the profiles. Whereas I see, if the profile is written by the person who's come up with the theory, then I see how the theory has, because I know with Victor, the theory very much determines what's in the profile, because I can see the premises wagging the dog as to how he got there. And so I find out more about the premises based on how they're played out in the profile. I get to work out how the person is thinking in order to end up with a profile like that, because I can then say, oh, he's put this in here because he thinks of, because he's thinking. So I modify how someone's thinking about it based on what's in the profile. Part of that is when you do it, it's easy to do this when it's like when someone's written a profile who's also like an LII, and you know how they think deductively. And Bradley and Laura probably do the same thing when they read through these profiles. They know how the profiles are written deductively a lot of the time. And I asked David Mark Kersey about how his father wrote his profiles. Now, he said that he did use factor analysis, but he was the one that chose. But wait a minute, but he was the one that chose the factors, and then he would make sure that those factors would appear. This is what I'm saying now. Those factors would appear in the profile. Yes, Laura.
Oh, I just wanted to say one thing. I mean, yeah. I mean, that makes sense. You try to write the profiles, to kind of match the theory, but then it's like let's say you're an INTP, for instance, and you're writing profiles for a type very different than your own type, then that profile could still be kind of biased because it's still coming from your own perspective. So I wonder if it would be best to have.
I should say something else. Is that what I also do though is like, yes, there's part, because I can also tell with Victor, like when it's coming from like an empirical observation or when it's coming from his theory. So here's an interesting thing where if you go through his profiles for all of the text in the break position versus the control position, theoretically, the control position is weaker in his theory, but when you look at the text, frequently the text of the break position is the least adequate. And even that's in Victor's book, Psychological Types, where it actually says that the break position text is the least adequate. So there's these little nuances going on about in what exact different ways the control function is weaker than the break, and the break is weaker than the control. And these little TI issues going on. But getting back to Laura's point of we also look at the empiricals, because INTP can also be very empirical, because like Kersey banging on about words and tools and actions, and we try so hard to be empirical. Or if you look at Juan Sandoval, looking at like people's facial expressions and stuff with cognitive type. I think you're interested in that as well, Laura. So you can see how the INTP people can get into the empirical stuff as well. So it becomes a weird blend of subjective premises and empiricism, because they want to see, it's like they're looking for those empirical things to sort of bear out and prove their subjective premises. Because INTP is the number one type that is aware of the limitations of thinking and is always worrying about deceiving themselves.
All right, let's end it there. Yeah, next question.
Right.
Yes. Okay, we're on the same page.
Overcoming obstacles. Oh dear. That second one sounds like it's written by an idealist. dear. Who's knocking?
I don't know.
No.
Is that better?
You can still hear us, all right? Maybe he can't. Yeah, I've definitely never seen anyone take as long as he has.
What do you say, Bradley? Is it indicative of my type in thinking about these questions?
Maybe a little.
It could be.
Yeah.
This is what I'm like with profiles. I think about things. Right. I'm gonna have to be this one, but it's like for the first part of it. Right, because that's like that's too like you know, typically that's like your Forsensoics people in socionics and people with like stronger extroverted sensor. This sounds too NF for me and too vague, and that's not, because I have to access the 6 stuff, but also I've got quite a bit of counterphobic 6 going on, and I have to go past the bullshit of the counterphobic part of the 6.
Just pick the one that is the least strong.
Yeah, as I explained, I have to go past the bullshit part. The bullshit part within myself. Yeah, it's all right. Oh, are you typing, Laura?
Well, I was just typing in the chat.
Right, I'll mute you for the moment.
I'm sorry. I'm trying to type softly. Okay.
ADHD stuff going on here, like any kind of little song, little noise while I'm reading. Ooh.
What's that? What's that about? Expand on that.
Well, I was thinking about that third one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because it's like the second part I don't agree with, but I do very much like this because like I said, it's like repeat. It's like, oh, Ben's asking me to put my webcam on again because he wants to see my face and my reaction to things. Remember that, like always wanting to see the feedback of somebody.
All right.
Yeah. I want the tone of voice. I want the face. At least the tone of voice. You see that there here, when it would say only consider the effect of the rather than I do react emotionally to an experience, but it's not the only considerer.
Do you have anything for that, Sana, or is that true of your experience?
Sorry, I didn't hear that.
Oh, I was just wondering how true the first option is for you.
For me personally,
Yeah.
I don't agree that I don't consider the effect on other people at all. It's mostly just that because I'm very aware of it. It's mostly just if there's like a situation where it's where the emotion has built up to a certain level.
Okay. Yeah, I guess your emotions are at like the forefront of your experience. Okay, got it. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm always aware of my emotions. I know what's going on there, like constantly.
All right. Yeah.
Right
So
then.
maybe think of it as like primary. But yeah, go on. Sorry. To the next question.
Okay. Just a little. It might be this one. I've just read the first two. It might be that one, but I've not read the next two yet.
Okay.
Ben.
Yes.
Zeke was offering to help you if you need.
Oh, is he?
In the chat. I mean, we could invite him here, or he could just type. But either way, because we seem to have some trouble figuring out exactly what these questions mean, and he, being the creator, would probably be the best to tell you.
Oh, I know what they mean. It's just that I'm going deep within myself to think what is the most true of me, and going through lots of different examples.
I'm just saying,
you got to go through the E6. You got to go through the E6 with me.
I'm just saying it might actually be helpful.
Okay. I'll give you I've given you the link. You can give the link to him.
Okay.
And he will be able to fit in because there's enough space for a sixth person. So, for example, I have 6 lines of reasoning for why socionics has got LSI and SI the wrong way around, but I'm not going to go into that now.
That's
good idea.
It would help if they jumbled these statements up so that it wasn't like in the structure of it.
Yeah,
Right.
I actually mentioned it. Apparently, it's a limitation with the software used to create the quiz.
Right. Yeah, I think that one.
Hello.
That's
Okay. Hey,
That's
Zeke.
it. Yep.
Hey,
I get-
guys hear me?
Right. Yep.
Mhm.
That's in line with my E6 stuff. Right. Like I said, I have with a lot of these, I have to weigh up the counterphobic part of me against the phobic part of me, where
That's the good part of the 6, though, because they've helped me develop this test for sure. Laura.
because we get you get your own sort of like you develop your sort of own positive thinking to sort of fool yourself into a sort of it's weird internal. You have to sort of like spin yourself to it's like it's. Oh God, easy.
Okay.
What made that one so easy for you?
Good question.
What made it so easy? Okay, we'll go back. Well, because I eat for like, I do like I eat for health reasons, but anyway, I don't really get into. Like, I'd have to get into my diet, and it'd be like 20 minutes.
Oh, that's good, though. And that's good that you know that and that you don't want to get into it, because that means it's a result. It's something that you're thinking about the result of F-related things. Whereas somebody who has like 2F or 3F, they're going to be wanting to talk about it, and they want to go into that 20-minute diatribe. So I think that's very indicative that you're probably a 1F.
Okay.
Yeah, and I really appreciate it because I totally wouldn't want to listen to that.
Same.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, but logic and other things, totally cool to listen to since it's in the middle.
All right. Right, so for example, in that fourth one, I've read a lot of books on like Robert McKee on and I'm reading his second book here on dialogue. Like wanting it's wanting an authority. But I want the authority to be good and not be like have like feet of clay and have faults. I want the good person out there, who's someone who really knows their stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
That was a heartfelt. Oh yeah. I think that you really relate to that.
Are you a 6 as well, Rob?
No, I'm actually a 7. I thought I was an 8 for a long time, but Catherine kind of mixed my two. She put 7 first, and I agree with her. So head type though, so I get it.
And also when I read the Pat Patterson books as well.
Mm-hmm. And it's interesting that you say that, because I like to call the 4th attitude you're like connoisseur, because you're really aware of who else is good at that thing. So if you are 4V, not saying that you are, you would be very aware of the other people who are good at achievements and who have good things to say about achievements and goals, if that makes sense.
That might line up with, although they are completely different systems, it's the way it lines up with the way INTPs and LIIs think about TE, in that we've got the information for it. I listened to Peter Schiff like since 2009, and that's like TE business logic all over the place, but it's all integrated with TI as well, with Austrian school economics. So
Don't get him started.
that, yeah, I know. Yes, yes. Oh, dear. But again, this is part of the doubt, is that I want to know that I've checked it out. Again, so it's part of it was 6 reasons for this one. So what you might get is someone who says a 6 who's taken this test, they might pick a lot of those ones at the bottom.
Yeah, I found that 6s just tend to, well, there's 2 different subtypes. One subtype of 6 just gets very inconsistent results, and the other subtype of 6 tends to lean towards the 3rd and sometimes the 4th, but they'll usually get their type. So it depends on which subtype of 6.
Well, I know for myself, as a 6, I mean, I found a lot of the questions, kind of difficult to answer. It would always be like between like maybe 2 or 3 options. Like maybe I could eliminate 1 or 2, but I keep going back and forth. And then yeah, I would find myself, leaning towards like the 3rd or the 4th option for some of the attitudes, even though it wasn't in the 3rd or 4th position.
Yeah, and that's been an interesting correlation and trying to understand where that fits.
Like several of those logic questions, for example, I would answer in favor of the 3rd attitude, but I can't have like logic and volition as 3rd.
And it's hard because we're trying to get like somebody's disposition rather than their cognition, so it's hard to separate that out in a question because people tend to default to their cognition or who they want to be or who they believe they are rather than their disposition and how they come off.
This one. I even discuss stuff that I shouldn't bloody talk about because I'm going to put it in my functions book, but I got a bloody big mouth. Talk about it. And I was banging on about the definition of, say, functions in, like here about possibilities. Like, I criticize socionics for having overly narrow definitions.
Right.
And recently I watched Jack's video talking about Donald Trump being SLE. And he was talking about tactics and strategy. I thought, hang on a minute, have you been reading Kersey there, Jack? And talking about improvising and tactical stuff? Because that's outside your narrow definition of SE. So anyhow.
It's not, though.
Well, why just talk about it as forced insights? Anyway, I'll get on to that later. Right. Yeah, so I have mixed feelings about theories and trying to.
That sounds very 3L.
How 3L was that comment right there?
Very. I mean, I relate. That's the only reason I'm saying so is because I totally am the same way. And 3Ls and 1Ls are very known for kind of making their own systems and then coming back and criticizing other people. Like, hey, why don't you fit into the way that I've seen this works?
Yeah, I don't like to make my own systems at all.
Yeah, 2Ls.
I got the idea. I
just like to learn other people's systems.
Right.
I spend a lot of time doing that.
Because I always want people to like think for themselves rather than sort of following a dogma.
Yeah, but it's not a dogma. It's just interesting. Just because I learn a system doesn't mean that I convert and become a cult member immediately, and that's my life from there on out. No, I just like doing it.
Yeah, but you do talk about TI like it's subjective and can never be wrong, which would mean I could never be wrong.
Because I don't. What? No, I said socionics does not divide TI, TE into subjective, objective. It's not a thing they measure.
Well, I think they should.
Well,
I see how everything is subjective and empirical.
Well, that's your definition. I'm just saying. See, this
Okay,
is
then
me
you
just
can,
calling
you
a
can go
system.
ahead and create your own system on that.
And also that using empirical and subjective actually lines up. Well, it's what Jung did. It lines up with Van der Hoek and it lines up with Kersey.
I don't care what it lines up with. I'm saying in this system, it's not a thing.
Yeah, that's me. I try to change the system. Like, sounds like realistic. Because if the system's not right, I will keep arguing the task about
that is
the
real.
system shouldn't be like that. The system shouldn't be like that. It should be like this. And so even if it is like that, it's like I'm not. It's like because I want it changed to what it should be.
And I'm just like, well, you have your own system. Use your own system. Leave the other systems as they are. This is you're not limited.
This is what I mean about the subjective factor of TI. Yes, it can take the form of logic, but you still got the subjective premises.
Yeah, but the entire human experience is subjective. Objectivity doesn't.
I'm glad you're actually admitting the subjective part.
Yeah, I'm just saying it's not a thing in the system that is being tracked. Like, there's no aspect.
Right.
Like
So
that.
So you just admitted there that subjectivity is a massive part of the human experience. So I think that should be incorporated into the system.
TE would be subjective as well. Checkmate.
No.
Yeah.
See, that depends on how you define subjective.
Okay, Zeke, do you find like TI or TE?
Well, that's a philosophical argument about empiricism. Like if someone has said, "Oh, all swans are white," and you say, "Oh, but if you'd have had better technique and say all the swans that I have seen in England are white," then that would be a true statement.
Can we get back to the test?
Right. Yes, we can.
System?
Okay, we're 1 hour in right now. Right. We're 22% of the way, which means at the rate we're going, we're going to be over 4 hours.
Yeah, we're not going to get this done. We need to get moving.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, we should, as long as you're sure, yeah.
Yeah.
Man, as a 3, I really want to know more, but we need to actually finish.
It's like I come up with this new thing and I want to tell other people about it. Like, hey, use Telegram.
That's a pretty old thing.
Yeah, I get behind, but it's new to me.
I used it like years ago.
Right. I mean, you could add me on Telegram then. All right.
I don't have it installed anywhere anymore.
Oh, dear me.
So should we like talk about the theory or something and have Ben do this in the background?
Oh, yeah, we could
Bradley?
do that.
Yeah, you can do.
Yeah,
I'll
yeah.
switch off my sound while I do it.
It's kind of silly
Sorry,
to
man.
just be quiet here and
Go on then. You talk about the
wait.
theory.
Yeah. So maybe
So-
you can continue with the
Yeah. So I won't be listening.
All right, Ben.
Okay.
Good luck.
Yeah, we're here if you really need us, but I think you're getting it pretty good now. So
Yeah, I think he's picking. Most of them, he's either picking his type that it seems like he is, or the attitude that is most similar.
right.
by most similar, what do you mean? How
As
does it
in
categorize?
similar. He seems to be basing it on how others perceive him. So if he's like he picked the 4E answers for 2E
Mhm.
sometimes, and then I also saw him choose what was it? One of the third, but was it a 3F? No.
I think it was a 3V. He chose a 3V.
Oh, did he choose a 3V?
Yeah, he did.
Oh, that one he said something about being a 6 and
Yeah.
such. Yeah,
Yeah, I think
which
so.
I could see that. I could see how 6s might, you know.
Yeah, I don't know how you actually test 6s and even 3Ls, because it seems like
It's
there's
hard.
yeah.
Yeah, it's really difficult. I mean, how do you
Mhm.
differentiate, you know, because people are going to perceive the question however they choose to. So you have to really design a question that will force people into talking about their disposition rather than their cognition or whatever else, their unconscious motivations, like Enneagram.
Yeah, how do you do that?
It's difficult. The main thing that I do is just
Maybe one of these days we'll have a DNA test.
yeah. Yeah. One of
Let's
the
test that.
things I've done is just keep a rolling average of the best question that brings it out in people. You almost have to like not manipulate, but really that's what it is. You have to kind of try to manipulate the test taker to respond in a way that you know lines up with the theory.
Yeah, or you could just like somehow observe them in the wild, and they don't even know that they're being observed. So then they're not really biased. I mean,
Right.
but then there might be ethical concerns about that. Oh, you know, because who wants to be spied on? You know, just to collect test data.
Also,
Right.
that's pretty difficult to implement in a test,
Oh.
Sure is.
unless you're like a stalker.
So basically, I've just been trying to type people as much as I can and then get them to take the test. So I have a large a
Wow.
large base of people that I can run it by. But it's tough because a
Yeah.
lot of
And if you know the theory well, you know what I mean, you know what attitude each response is corresponding to, and then it's like, okay,
Mhm,
well, I know I should answer this way because
mhm.
I believe my type to be this, but in this particular case, I actually relate more to that one, and I
Yeah, and that's also very six. That's why so many sixes will take my test. I would say like at least 40% of the people responding are Enneagram 6. But
40%.
yeah, I would say it's around that. I mean, when
Well,
I had the Enneagram on there to where you could choose it, even then I was getting about like maybe a quarter of people taking it were sixes, and a lot of
really,
people are mistyped.
do you think that it's because you think that just more sixes exist in nature, or
No,
is there something about sixes just being attracted to this theory?
it's the second option. I mean, there are a lot of sixes, but it seems they really like to learn about what makes people tick and their own personality and how they relate and feel secure to other people. So that
Mhm,
brings them to these circles, I think.
mhm.
And they love to take tests, and I love
Yeah.
that they love to take tests because it gives me more information.
And I guess they like that outside authority telling them,
Yeah, that's another thing.
because they don't it's like they don't fully trust themselves, so they're looking for that outside authority.
Yeah, and I've run into that too, where people will even look to me like, just tell me, and explain it all to me, and I sometimes can, but other times it's like it's such a shallow system at its core. It's really looking at how you come off and your disposition rather than like some core unconscious part of you. That would be more like Enneagram. So it's hard for me to be like an overall authority on the system because it's so shallow. Like not to say there's not a lot to learn about it.
Right.
There is,
Yeah.
but it's shallow on its surface.
Yeah, I can actually elaborate on that. Like, I guess it's relatively superficial, but I actually live my conflictor in the system, and it's very clear to see like how we stress each other out because the way we live life is just so different.
Right. Yeah, that's true. And you feel that instant, either draw towards the way that person is behaving, or you don't want to be around them at all. And that's usually indicative of what the system is trying to explain. Usually, there's some exceptions.
Yeah, like I actually do like how it's there's enough nuance to make it like meaningful, but not so much heavy theory to make me like really get stuck in the weeds about like the particulars of the nuances between each type. So it's like
I mean, it's kind of like with Enneagram. There's a lot of nuances. There's wings and there's stackings and tri-types, but it's not really that useful if you don't even know your core type first.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know my core type for years and years.
Mm.
I knew my tri-type,
Yeah,
and I found
here.
that the
It's
most.
like,
I found my tri-type way more useful than my core type.
well, the tri-type kind of adds a flavor to it. I mean,
Yeah, but I kind of relate to my tri-type more heavily than
just like the core,
yeah, like it's a package deal.
the package deal. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, I'm similar. I relate to both 8 and 7 pretty equally. I never really knew which type I was. Everybody just called me an 8, so I went with 8.
Yeah, look at how quickly Ben is choosing the 1F.
Yeah.
No, he knows.
I know.
Okay, now he's getting into the easier questions, so hopefully.
See, I wonder. Okay, I wonder if that's something you could implement on your test, like the time it takes to answer each question, and then like the ones you answer faster carry more weight because they're probably more you than the one you have to deliberate a long time on because you may not.
Yeah, I've thought about that. Or if it.
Although the only challenge would be is like, what if you have to take a bathroom break in the middle? Then it's going to screw up your results because you took a long time to answer a certain question.
Yeah,
you might have been fast on otherwise.
there's
Yeah,
a lot of pitfalls you can run into, actually, and that's another hard part of making tests.
But it does kind of ask the same questions several times, doesn't it? I seem to recall.
Yeah, in different ways.
Yeah. Yeah, I think Ben is very 1F, actually. It's just,
Okay, yeah.
just interacting with him.
It's, I'm seeing that now, but it was interesting because, in the other chats we did, it's like he never brought up physics. Everything was like logic stuff, and
Yeah, because
Yeah.
it's
maybe
results.
talking about volition and emotions to some degree, but I never heard him talk much about physics. I mean, and maybe I'm wondering if because it's a result-oriented function, you don't talk about your result-oriented functions as much. You just kind of do them.
I think that's it. That's one of the reasons that I think he is 1F, because he doesn't talk about it. But if you observe him, he does it, and every now and then he will mention it, but he doesn't want dialogue on it.
Kind of like myself with logic. Like Ben will talk about like logical consistencies and logical premises, and I don't talk about it as much as he does, but I'm always kind of thinking about that in the background.
Yeah, that's the process result, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, I talk about systems all the time.
I will.
Yeah.
I will too, but I don't want to like debate for hours on end.
Yeah.
Like it's
See,
a
I
good
will
premise or
argue.
bad premise, and the debate never goes anywhere. I mean,
Yeah, and even now, Laura, you're talking about your volition, like that's your character.
Right.
is that volition?
Yeah.
Okay, why is that volition? I don't want to get too sidetracked here, but why is that volition?
You're talking about how you are, how you interact with others. I mean, it has emotions kind of, with it, but talking about your character and who you are is volition.
Okay,
I mean, you're encapsulating logic, but what we have to remember is that volition encapsulates all the other aspects by theory, so it's going to sound like the others.
Wait, what do you mean by that? How?
So there's actually, this is where you can really expand the theory, but there's a stacking of all the other aspects that encapsulate the others. So it would be volition encapsulates emotion, logic, and physics. And then emotions encapsulates physics and logic. And then logic encapsulates physics. And physics is the base aspect of reality. So a lot of people don't know that, but that's kind of why volition can look like it's all the other aspects, and people will relate to each other attitude wherever their volition is. They'll be like say they're a 3V, they'll think, wow, I think I'm a 1V, a 2V, a 3V, and a 4V. Like all of them sound similar to me because they do kind of, I'm sorry, a 3V, a 3L, a 3F, and a 3E.
Yeah.
Because it kind of roulettes through all of them. Like volition just encapsulates them all coming together to make volition. Because if you think of the concept at its base, it's about energy, character, can kind of be about your identity at times. And these things all require to look at your emotions and how you deal with logic and how you organize your environment. And those all come together to assert your character and identity and your energy. And then it just goes down the list. So, with your emotions, it's all about logic and physics. It's about how these two things come together and how you feel about both of them. And then logic, when you create logic, it's about the material world and materialism and how objects relate and correlate to one another, and you create mathematics and philosophies to go with that. And then physics just is what it is. It's the actual base reality.
Huh. Okay.
Yeah, because I was reading like in a Russian source, about the theory that like if you're like the position of your volition can affect the position you perceive your other attitudes to be. So like if your first volition, you might identify with the first attitude, with some of the other attitudes. If your third volition, you might identify with the third with the third attitude, or.
Yeah, it's true.
the third position, or fourth volition might identify with multiple fourth positions. So it's kind of interesting.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
And
I've kind of seen that with myself, and then with other people, like somebody who's a 1V. It kind of seems like they're first to everything, you know.
Right, and that's why the types are actually more complex than they seem to be. Like when you look at the type, at the nomenclature, you're just like, oh, these are just the letters that mean whatever. But they come together to form this kind of like higher system, because wherever your volition is at, it also will affect, like say you're a 4V and you're a 2L, like your volition encapsulates the logic. So that's going to change how your 2L looks. And that's why each type has a separate flavor of that attitude. So my 3L as an EVLF, my 3L is very, very opinionated. It goes against people. It's because I have that 1E, and I also have the 4F, so I can ignore the base reality, which is physics, and I can like intently focus on the 3L. And it's interesting because an EFLV who has 4V, we could kind of apply the same logic to me. Like, okay, I'm a, kind of a bitchy 3L because I have the 1E. Why isn't the EFLV, which is the satirist, why aren't they like that? Because they have 1E. Well, it's because they have 4V. So they don't take their volition or their character as seriously as I do as a 2V, who's constantly wanting to be open, flexible, and talk about who I am and who other people are and our responsibilities. So even just switching two aspects can completely negate and change how that type looks as a whole.
Okay, that sounds very nuanced.
Yeah, like I said, at its surface, it's very shallow, but once you really dig in, it's kind of insane how deep it goes.
Interesting.
Yeah, and I would say the other 3L type that's also kind of very aggressive about it is VELF. And for the similar reasons, they have the high volition, which they're very assured of who they are and what they want, on top of being critical about logic. So that also comes out in that type.
So why do I enjoy arguing about systems?
Well, you have the opposite effect. So ELVF, you've got the volition in the third, which also encases logic. So it's not going to be as much of a hard resistance as my type, but you will see little lingerings of 3L with the ELVF. Like their volition can sometimes dance into the territory of logic, and you'll see that in the way that they argue. They'll be very resistant. However, they'll write out huge responses and be open to what other people have to say, and they'll also incorporate their ideas, and it's not as rejecting as an EVLF, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I do relate to some of the 3L descriptions, although not as much as 3V.
Right.
And I do, like, I don't necessarily see myself as being open to other people's ideas, but in practice, I think I am, because I learn from other people a lot. Like, I don't do the 3L thing of, creating my own systems.
Yeah, and even your disposition, like, sure, you do seem to enjoy arguing, well, not enjoy it, but you do seem to argue over logic, but you're still begging the question of, hey, what else can we explore, or what does this mean? Does the other person understand what this means? You do seem concerned about that. Where 3L is like more like, wow, you don't know what you're talking about. It's seeing the negative parts of it. So it's how 2L and 3L are very relative to one another, but it's just the positive and negative versions of the overarching process attitude. So we could even go more basic. A lot of people don't know this, but you don't have to say the second versus the third. You can actually just say the process attitude or the results attitude, and you can you can put half the population in one and half or however it falls in the other.
Yeah, I appreciate or value the 4L skepticism. I think it's very needed when it comes to systems. Like you have to be skeptical, because if you're not, you're just gonna adopt ideas that have no merit whatsoever, you know?
Right, exactly.
I feel like, I mean, this was before you said anything about the attitudes encompassing. What was the word you used?
Say that again.
What was the word you used when when you said
encapsulate.
Encapsulate. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Just think of like the Russian nesting dolls. Like V would be the very first one, and then it just goes down the line.
Right. Well, I didn't know anything about that, but I do kind of feel like my L and V operate together a lot of the time.
Yeah,
I didn't really know why.
And it'll be even more pronounced for you as a 2L, because they share that. It'll be more pronounced in a conversational way, since those process attitudes are about conversing, really, and exchange of information.
And because I don't get anything done anyway, so.
Right. Yeah, that's some of the insecure V coming out. And 4F, yeah. Right. Whereas like an LEVF, which I would call the visionary, their L and V is going to be much more choppy, and they'll monologue. Like Laura will monologue and she'll give you a good logical explanation of how something works, but it's more choppy. She'll come in and tell you, hey, this is my idea that I have about this thing, and then she brings her energy back. So an ELVF kind of hangs in there with you the entire time. Like they're always willing to just do the back and forth thing, and they want to know what you feel or what you think logically. Or an LEVF is like, hey, this is something that I've noticed. Okay, next. This is also something else I've noticed. Not to say they won't dig deep in ideas, but their disposition is just more choppy.
Yeah, it's less of a dialogue.
Yeah, I think I've noticed that. I mean, like I will engage in dialogue, but I think it's like ELVF. They kind of do more like, hey, what do you think? What do you think about this? And whereas I will be like, I'll kind of wait for the other person to tell me what they think, and then I'll respond back.
Right.
Yeah, I don't do monologues. At least not when it comes to logic stuff.
Right.
I don't really.
I used to think I did dialogues, and then people were always saying, "Oh, you do all these monologues. You're always talking in monologues." I said, "Am I really?" And then I kind of watched myself. I said, "Oh yeah, that is what I'm doing."
Yeah, I definitely have that a lot with my volition, where I'm not like super aggressive, or I'm very agreeable in like the big 5 sense. So it came to me as a surprise when people felt that they were intimidated by me when I'm doing V stuff. I'm just like, really? I'm not intending to be intimidating, but I do get that feedback of people like being very it's not off-putting, but it is like it's very disarming when someone's just like doing stuff without like without any feedback or without any responding to what anyone else is doing. They're just kind of like doing stuff and getting it done.
Do you have an example? Like what kind of stuff?
Oh, it's just like I don't know. Like the example. I guess whenever there's like a team building, whenever there's like team tasks, of like where people like delegate responsibilities, like you like say you wanna, I'm looking at a table, so I'm just gonna say table, you bring the table, someone else brings the chair, someone else brings the cushions. It's like say I'm giving the responsibility of like getting the chairs. It's like so I get all the chairs, and then I
So
know that sorry, yeah, I get all the chairs, and it's like I know it's going to be hard for the pillow person to get the pillows, so it's like I get the pillows without telling anyone I got the pillows. So it's like I come to the meeting. It's like, okay, I have all these chairs and these pillows, and it's like, wait, when you finish getting the chairs, people are saying to me, it's like, I didn't know you got those chairs. Can you maybe like give some feedback as to what you're doing, like what responsibilities you have? And it's like, no, it's just I know what he's doing, so I just do it. And people are just like very like, huh, what? I don't understand, but it's just like me just basically doing stuff without telling other people what I'm doing. So
you just get stuff done, basically.
yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that makes sense. And even with your type, Bradley, I call it the contender. And a lot of your types are like, some are 5s, some of them are like 9s and 6s. So they're not exactly aggressive Enneagram types or people that come off as necessarily disagreeable. But if you kind of ask them more about how they do things and how they set up their life, it's very, very individualistic, even when they're 6s. A lot of times they're counterphobic, and they will not let anybody tell them what they should or shouldn't do with their energy or who they are,
Absolutely.
their character. And they will get in the ring. They don't mind ever getting in the ring. That's why I like to call them the contender. And even if they're quiet, shy, you will see in their presence of how they reject what other people try to have them do, and they're very flippant about it. It's not, they don't worry about it so much like the 3V, but they kind of just tell you, no, get out of my way, and they keep doing what they want to do. Now, if they're 2E type or a 3E type, sometimes like your type, they'll worry about how they're coming off to others because they don't want to be pulled into that emotional realm. So, I mean, with the more aggressive, like the 8s that are VLEF, they'll very much just tell you, no, I'm not going there. But the 5s and the 9s and the 6s will kind of just passively reject the emotional aggression if it's there.
Yeah. Just to I guess just to answer your question more directly, Sana, it's like what is it like when people say, yeah, you're very intimidating? It's like it's that when people are trying to assert what you should be responsible for, it's like, I'm not doing that. It's like, oh, yeah, I'm just gonna do this, so yeah, you better like get out of my way, sort of thing. And it's like it's not like me telling them, it's just like me acting it out. So that confuses them even more. So I'm not like verbalizing that I'm not gonna do what they're telling me. It's just like I come back the next day with all the stuff done, and it's just like I don't. It's just like it's like, so yeah, exactly. So it works, and it's like everything works more smoothly when I'm doing my own thing. But it's just they don't know how to handle me not interacting with. Yeah, exactly.
Okay, that's interesting because I do some of that, but I worry about it. Like
Interesting.
I have to kind of compose myself to be able to do it. Basically, I mean, I can be very stubborn, and it's difficult to get me to do something that I don't want to do, but I don't really have that kind of confidence about it.
Right.
Yeah, for me, it's like super interesting, like the 1E 3V, because sometimes when you want something emotionally, you just can know how to push for it because it's like it's just the only thing on your mind. So in like some ways, I feel like the ELVF can be like even pushier than like the 1Vs if they have a very strong emotional investment in like the goals.
Oh, I can push psychologically very effectively.
I'm sure. So I'm reading the YouTube chat.
Somebody's asking about the Russian nesting doll analogy.
Oh yeah, you might have missed it, Justin. We
Yeah.
talked about it a little earlier, but I was just saying how V incorporates all the other aspects or encapsulates them really, and it goes down the line. So it's V, then E, then L, then F.
Yeah, so like the V is like in the middle nesting doll, right? And then the F is like the outer one, the most outer one.
Yeah.
Okay.
And there's also there's so much more that I could go into, but there's also traditional masculine, feminine, or how we would say yin and yang, which volition is traditionally the most masculine, forcive, yang, and then sorry, my brain's fried right now. Then it would go logic, and then physics, and then emotions. So emotions would be the most traditionally feminine or yin aspect. So we've got two different ways we can kind of organize these in like a dichotomy, or well, the first one's more of an encapsulation, but this one's more of a dichotomy or a scale. So logic and physics are more in the middle, where physics can go either way, but it leans more towards yin and feminine, and logic leans towards masculine, but it can be, it can have a little bit of feminine in there too.
But if you have like the attitude of the function, like when like the first function be more yang because it's aggressive and
Yes.
it's confident and it knows what it wants, and then the fourth function is the most yin because it's not as
Absolutely.
confident and it's referring to somebody else.
Yeah, and I mean you're digging into more of how deep this goes, but yeah, you can also set it up like that, and that is true. And it flips though, because your second is more feminine, but it can be masculine, and then your third is more masculine but leans feminine. So
the aggressiveness of a function trumps the confidence
yes.
in terms of whether it's yang or yin.
Yeah, because with others, it's how you look on the surface. So you're going to see that more with your opinion of others or how you interact with others. So if it's others negative, that's more of a traditionally masculine trait, where if it's others positive, it's traditionally more feminine.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. But the difference, and that's where you would think, well, maybe the second one is the most feminine, but the second one is active energetically because it's positive and positive. So it just brings up those two coming together gives you a more masculine feel.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just wait. Are you done with that topic?
I could say so much more.
No, because I have a question.
Go ahead.
I don't want to interrupt if you're still talking.
No, ask away.
So I think 4F is probably right for me. I think it does suit me.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm very confident about some F things,
Mm-hmm.
like aesthetic things, clothing. I'm an artist. I'm very good at like the visual aspect of stuff, whether it's whether it's painting or how I dress or how I decorate or stuff. I'm really good at that. But how does that fit with 4F?
Yeah, well, aesthetics is a tough one, because we could also say somebody might perceive aesthetics emotionally. I mean, all aesthetics give us an emotional reaction. So a lot of 1Es will have a specific sort of artistry that they enjoy. And that artistry, this is where the encapsulation comes to play. So emotions is a culmination of logic and physics. So sometimes they will have really strong opinions about physics related things, especially if you're a 4F, because you're results oriented, and you're also going to be a connoisseur of that aspect. So you're going to notice what is the most useful outside of yourself. So you just kind of are like a sponge. You'll sponge that up, and then on top of it, you'll have an emotional reaction if you've perceived it in an emotional way. Any of the aesthetics that you subscribe to. Hopefully, I'm answering your question, but if not, just ask more.
No, it makes sense, but it doesn't fully answer it, because I feel like I was, first of all, I was born that way. No one taught me how to do it. It's just like an innate thing. And I don't think it's necessarily related to emotion, because it's just like, okay, this looks good. This is like a balanced picture. I don't know how to explain it. It's just that when I read about aesthetics and F, I go, I'm good at that and I'm confident about it. But I don't think I want F.
Interesting.
Mhm.
Yeah. I mean, that's pretty common, I think, for 4Fs. I also relate to your answer, and
Mhm.
yeah, the best explanation I have for that is we do have a base experiential understanding of all the aspects. That, I mean, it is interesting that you use the word confident. I wouldn't necessarily say I'm confident. I would say that I am. I'm okay with it. I'm okay with what I choose. I think that it's the best fit given the information I've been provided.
I can give you an example.
Yeah, tell me.
When I was moving out in my early 20s, we were basically redoing the internal parts of my new apartment.
Mhm.
And obviously I was picking all the look.
Mhm.
And my way of doing this is basically I go through the options and I get a feeling, okay, this is right, and I will go for it. And it takes like a few seconds, and I just know. So I picked the floor, and I pointed, I said, this is my floor, this is what we'll take. And my parents were like, that's not gonna fit. That it doesn't look good. And I'm like, no, it's gonna be perfect. This is
Mhm.
what we're gonna take. And it was perfect. Like once we got it, my parents looked at it and they were like, wow, you were totally right. And
Yeah.
that's the kind of attitude I have about aesthetics. So I would definitely call it confident. But it's also very result. Like I don't
Yeah.
want to talk about it.
Right. And what made you confident about it?
I just know. I look
See,
at
that's
it
cognition.
and I
Yeah.
know.
That's cognition. I think you're getting into just how your cognition works. Now, I don't know what that would be in socionics, but
I don't know either.
yeah, when you get to where you're just like, well, I just know that thing, or this is how I think about that thing, like naturally think about that thing. It's going to be more about your cognition. It'll say more about your cognition than your
Right.
attitude. Because I would say actually that's kind of 4F, not wanting to talk about it, just picking one and knowing that's just what you want in that moment.
Definitely,
That's
yeah.
more
Definitely
4F.
result. I don't think I process F for sure.
Yeah.
And I think it's I think it's just like a skill. It's it's what I do when I paint. You know, I don't have like training on composition or anything. I just do it.
Right.
So it's the same thing.
That makes sense.
So I suppose that's like in this case non-type related.
Yeah. Vaguely, well, not vaguely, but just results F if we had to pick something.
Yeah. Okay.
And there's obviously there's going to be things that just fall outside of your type, or little things
Yeah.
that we could call a subtype if we had to, but
Well, this particular thing just it seems so out of place. Most of the time I can kind of explain it away because I don't expect the system to describe me perfectly anyway. But this one just seemed so enough to make me doubt my typing. Let's put it that way.
right. I had a similar experience actually with my parents when I was younger. I remember we were out looking for couches, and I don't know, they just kept going back and forth about ones they wanted, and I'm like, it's this particular one. Like this is what's going to look good.
Yeah.
And they were
exactly.
like, oh, okay. So they kept arguing about the other ones, and finally they were like, okay, we're going to just go with that one since we can't make up our minds. And they took it home, and they were like, wow, this looks great. And I don't know if I was necessarily, it was my opinion about the couch. I think I recognized what both of their opinions would be once it got back to the house. And I just knew what both of them were going to think. For me, that probably was more for F, because I understand everybody else's opinions about physics, but don't necessarily care much about mine.
Yes, that makes sense. I think I can do that as well. Basically, like, okay, this is what you are looking for, and this
Right.
fits it perfectly. type of thing.
Exactly.
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah, for me, in this case, I suppose I don't really make a difference whether it's my thing or their thing. It's just some kind of a vibe.
Right. Looks like Ben's coming along, halfway done.
Yeah. Is
Has
it
he?
is it type related to not feel pressured? Because if I were here doing this test in a stream, I would feel like I have to be doing it faster. Like I would feel the pressure, but he doesn't. He just does his thing.
That's well, I would say that has a couple different things that we could attribute to type. I would say first of all, it's low SE, low FE in socionics. I would also say it's social. I would say it's social last for the Enneagram stacking.
I'm social last though.
And 4V for sure. So I think all three of those are a good explanation of that. Yeah.
Because holy crap, if I were him, I would be feeling so much pressure right about now.
Oh yeah, 4V is not going to do that unless a 1V tells them, "Hey, do this," and then they'll just do it. Which we saw happen earlier. Yeah, Bradley.
Oh, what happened?
Bradley was like, "All right, let's answer the question," and he was like, "Okay," and then he did it.
Oh, okay.
1V and 4V.
Cool. So basically, okay, we really need Bradley here.
Yeah, interesting.
So, one moment. What does this bit mean here when it says deep feelings of others?
Oh, deep feelings that you have about others. Sorry, I should change that wording. Thank you for pointing it out.
Right, okay. Thank you.
Okay.
I will be off.
Cool. I'm trying to think of all the questions I've ever had about this system.
While you're thinking, can you talk about Justin asked about disposition and changing an AP type? And I have a general idea of how I want to answer it, but it can probably sound a lot more coherent coming from you.
Yeah. So your disposition, what I've found just from reading about social psychology and stuff like that, is it generally does not change for most people. Even your big five, which is also related to your disposition, does not change from what researchers have found. So I tend to think that it does not. I've never found people's type to change. There are people that have never picked a type, even though I have an opinion about which type they are. So I've just never witnessed it myself. And I think even in children, like when I've applied this system to them, it pretty much fits. Anybody that's like any, human that's over 5 years old is gonna have a pretty clear type from, that time onward. And I've only been doing this for about 5 years now, so I don't have a lifelong data, but from videos I've watched of people, like I did a deep dive with Leonardo DiCaprio the other day and looked at all of his like interviews when he was a kid and just watched him through the years to see if there was any noticeable change. And obviously there is, people grow and change, and the way they present themselves is different. So that kind of looks like their disposition, since it's how they're presenting themselves. But there's a lot of room for, I mean, we're only dividing reality into 4 different realms here. So it's not like there's a ton of room for change. There's just different metrics within each aspect, if that makes sense. So like a 1V can be a super neurotic and aggressive 1V, or they can kind of be chill and calm, but the things that they're going to say will still represent that they have confident volition. Whether they choose to do the unhealthy or the healthy thing is really what will change over your lifetime.
All right, and then I guess I answered his question like with yes and no because of like the volatility of the third aspect. So could you touch on like the
Yeah. So that's a huge topic. I actually want to make a long video. Go ahead.
Before we go there, I'd like to point out that as far as I'm aware, some aspects of the Big Five do change. There are categories that do change, and there are categories that rarely change. So it really depends on which one you're looking at.
Oh yeah, is that like the subcategories that make up the, like, I know openness is about what, excitability and whatever.
Yeah, I don't have the list. Like I didn't look it up before I said this. It's just that this is I can't name the exact categories. Only that some categories are more prone to change over time than others.
Interesting. I'll have to look at that.
Yeah.
I just think of my own conscientiousness and how rough it is for me to change it. So I have very low conscientiousness.
It might be one of those that are not likely to change. Who knows? I really don't remember which ones they were because it's been a while.
Yeah.
It's been a while since I had that particular argument.
Well, thank you for your expertise anyway, 2L. So the third attitude, that's like a huge conversation and topic, but the main takeaway is that you go through 3 different phases of that attitude. You go through where you're very reactive. We call it the reactive phase. You want to learn more about it. You are constantly asking questions. You're constantly going up against, you're being skeptical against the authority of that aspect. And you, furthermore, you are desiring that you look apt at that aspect. So you want to look strong. You want to look like you know what you're talking about. That's the reactive phase. And that's, it can be neurotic and anxiety inducing, but people have also told me it can be exciting for them and it feels like they're making progress in their life. So, it can go either way. And then the dormant phase is where you feel a lot of anxiety, you worry, you don't want to be criticized within it because it brings up the negative feelings. So a lot of people will kind of bury it down in favor of their other attitudes, or they will kind of neglect it, or they don't want to go there when it's brought up. They'll kind of escape from the situation. And then the third one is the secure phase, which is generally when it's about a subtopic or something. So say you're a 3V and you have a huge project that you're working on and you learn all about how you can energize yourself more. So you study all about it, you get super reactive about your energy levels, and you start, you download something on your phone that tracks your energy and your moods, and you go all crazy into it, you're reactive. And then you start to understand it and be confident about it, then we would call that secure, and it doesn't bother you as much anymore. So a lot of people can actually get these little sub aspects in their personality where they become secure and feel more at ease about it. And they'll start to think that if they come to my system and they've already been through that part of their lives, they'll often think that they're the first attitude instead of the third. So you have to like dig around and poke around on everything in that aspect to make sure that they're actually insecure, so it can start to mimic the first. So yeah, there's the three. There's dormant, reactive, and secure.
Do you go through them multiple times, or is it like a
Yeah, and you can be in different places depending on, you can be in different phases depending on which specific sub aspect you're talking about. Like logic is comprised of many different things: knowledge, going to school, like universities, and arguments and philosophy. So one of them you may be very reactive about, and it just inspires this, like, aggressive going against an authority. But then maybe for something else you're kind of relaxed about and secure, and then another thing maybe you don't even want to deal with it. So that's why the third is so volatile. It depends on what specific thing we're talking about. Like one 3V might freak out over you asking them or telling them to do something, and another 3V might be fine with that because they've learned that sometimes people have to tell you what to do and you have to listen and comply, and it's not something you should worry about, etc. But either way, the third is always varying in degrees.
Well, yeah, actually, that was one of the reasons that I wasn't sure if I was 3B or 3F, because I am quite fine with people telling me what to do in areas where I'm not comfortable regarding my own knowledge. Like, I want people to
Exactly.
tell me what to do.
Exactly. And then we also have to remember what we talked about earlier, the encapsulation. A 3V is going to have a lot more variance than a 3F. 3Fs are very good at telling their 3F usually right away. They know that they're bothered by physics, and it's pretty basic for them. Although they can go through the 3 different phases, it's more uniform than a 3V. A 3V is going to be all over the place.
I don't know what you're talking about.
It says that Ben's coming up like the last 8 final home stretch. So.
Oh, good.
Yeah. But yeah, he seemed to handle these 2 choice questions a lot more quickly than the fortune.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. I saw he was picking some answers that I was curious about. It looked like maybe I was inspiring some cognition rather than disposition for some of them.
I just kind of have a general question about like the second half, because like there are some things like I will be confident in, but then it'll still take me a lot of time and effort to handle it.
Right. So you're seeing the it looks like the logic kind of cancels each other out there for you.
So I'm thinking maybe like I'm confident in it. So maybe the time and effort is coming because it's it's more process oriented, and people want to spend more time on the process oriented functions.
That's a good point. Yeah.
And then there's things that I'm not so confident in, but I still want to handle it. I still want to handle it quickly. And that would be like a fourth function because it's result oriented. So it's like,
that's a really good point. All right. I'm gonna have to take that into consideration. Thanks, Laura.
What if?
Yep. My 6 comes to rescue again.
What if decorating something is not very important to a person?
Well, I don't think I have important in there. So it's just about
It's like, I mean, it might be to such an extent where they're not even like confident about it because it doesn't even come up that they're confident about it if they don't attend to it.
Yeah, that one might be better if there's like a doesn't matter answer that just doesn't give any points to anything since it's irrelevant.
Or I guess how I've been looking at those questions is you kind of have to think hypothetically. Suppose somebody asked you to decorate a space,
Oh, yeah.
Like, can you decorate my space? Like how confident would you be? I've kind of, because I noticed that too with that section. Like there'd be some that just didn't really apply to my situation, and it was like,
Yeah, that makes sense.
I'll move on.
That's actually interesting regarding the earlier when I said that I'm confident about aesthetics and stuff. But if you asked me to decorate your space, I would totally not want to do that. Not because I can't do that, but because it's not interesting.
Mm-hmm.
well, the thing is, like I'd be more confident in decorating my own space than somebody else's space, because somebody else's space, it's like I can't read their mind. I'd have to ask them questions so I knew what they wanted, and I might not meet their expectations because I know myself better than I know other people. So it'd be easier for me to decorate my own space.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's also process results. Like I don't want to go through the process of asking you what you want.
Maybe. But I mean, as a 4F, I still would, because I would want to adapt to the needs of other people.
I wouldn't.
And if I was going to decorate somebody else's space, I want to make sure that I could get them what they wanted. But I also wouldn't be very confident in doing that, because
I would just say no.
okay.
Wow, he picked a 1E answer. Interesting.
Yeah.
He picked what?
He picked a 1E, yeah.
Missed that. Which one was that?
Which area of life do you feel most confident in refusing to bend to the will of others?
Okay.
Yeah, we're actually talking about that, Laura. We were saying that he had like a lot of like one-isms regarding like his opinions on art and acting and music, and he had very strong opinions.
That's
Right.
Yeah, that's
Well, I
Pente.
mean, I
That's
think there are
Pente.
subtypes. I think there are subtypes that come out, and like, that'd be interesting to address in a future hangout.
Yeah, that's just to give a hint. That's probably more Pentes, because that whole sexta is about, which is results, for those watching, results F and V and process E and L. They tend to have a more aggressive stance with emotions, and they're generally okay with like mocking people. I mean, even if it's just in a funny way, but yeah, it would look more 1E sometimes. What did he choose on that last one? I didn't see.
Hold on. Let's see if I can. The YouTube feed is slightly behind, so let's see if I can catch it the second time.
Is it the
Open.
willing to listen to others?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm watching the. He
He
picked the
chose.
last one.
He picked the last one. Yeah.
Oh, so that is 2E.
Yeah, and he picked the first one for the 3 question for the third position.
3V. Interesting.
So yeah, that means he left out physics and logic for the first round of questions.
Right. It's gonna be close. I'm not sure what type he'll get.
Yeah, it'll be interesting.
Me either.
He might.
He should get 1F for sure, but
Yeah, he'll either get F. He'll probably get FEVL or FELV, one or the other.
Yeah.
I picked quite a lot of like 1F question answers and stuff, and I was absolutely certain that I was gonna get something else, and I did not. So
Good.
Yeah. On this version, I actually got my own type, because I took all these other versions of the test, and I get something way different.
Yeah.
I've never gotten a different type in a test.
Yeah.
So I was like,
Yeah.
I was getting a bit paranoid. Like, am I, subconsciously or even partially consciously just picking the ones that fit instead of what I actually am? So I actually made an effort last time to counter that. So I definitely picked 1F answers.
Let's see if he picks 1E here.
Does the test track like
I think it's going to pick one F.
a purely process result? Like, does it take that into account?
I took that out because it was all over the place when I would test people, and I didn't know how to word it. I tried like 3 different wordings, and it just would not work no matter what I did. So I took it
I
out.
mean, I don't mean wording. I don't mean wording wise. I mean, like, does it track whether an answer is process or result?
Oh yes, yeah, it does.
Okay.
Oh, you're right. He did pick 1E.
Yep. Yeah, I think Pentes tend to do that because some of the Pentes will test as 1E even when they're VLEF. Sometimes they'll get ELVF.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you notice like any trends with like the XE sexta? Like do they? If they test outside their sexta, like what do they tend to come out as?
The 1Fs tend to type correctly. The LEVF and LVEFs are all over. They test all over the place. Like, man, yeah, pretty much every other type.
Every type.
Yeah, but the 1Fs get their type. I don't know why. Even the 6s, like, because
that's interesting.
Some FEVLs are 6s, and they usually get their type.
Yeah, it must be really hard to test for like for 1L2E because most as I was hinting out in the beginning of this video, like most systems put logics and emotions at like direct opposite ends. So I think most people aren't really used to conjecturing a type that could have really high emotions and logic.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
Yeah, and I think that's why like with MBTI and socionics, like why that's always been kind of confusing for me, and why people have had such conflicting ideas regarding my type. Well, is she a logical type? Is she an ethical type? What is it?
Yeah. Not only that, the definitions keep changing I know in socionics sometimes, but with MBTI, there's been like 17 different iterations of the test, and each time they say, this is the authority, this is the correct one. Like this, if you get your type here, this is what you are. And it's like totally different each time they come up with a new version. I think they're on like version S or T right now.
Not to mention, most people don't actually use the official MBTI.
Right.
Anyway.
Right. They go with 16 personalities, and
they go with whatever. Like
Whatever,
there's probably like 500 different.
Yeah.
At least. Yeah.
Yeah. The last iteration I took, I came out ENTJ, but I know in socionics I'm pretty clearly SEE gamma.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I pretty regularly come out INTP and the official instruments, and then I'm EAI and socionics. So
right.
I've never done the official MBTI instrument, so I don't know. But every other test, I'm always INFP.
I'm that INFJ special snowflake, like 80% of the people that take the test.
Yeah.
Oh,
I mean,
man.
the rest of us are probably doing something wrong. We should be getting
INFJ.
INFJ or INTJ.
Yeah, I used to get ENFJ. It just really depends on how they ask the T versus F questions.
And the test.
Yeah.
And the system.
So, any final guesses on what he'll get?
He's gonna get. I think he's gonna get his type, but it's FEVL is gonna be really close.
Yeah.
This feels like a sports match that we're just.
Are we betting money on this? I mean,
the
merchant.
FLV, right? Yeah.
I think that's FLV. I think.
Yeah, but I want to see his scores at the bottom.
Me
That'll
too.
be interesting.
Yeah.
How close?
FLV. Okay.
Oh my god.
Oh, Fluv was second.
36, okay. Okay, yeah, all the top 4 types are all 1F.
Yep. A nice cluster. We know these 1F.
Mhm.
Okay. I wonder what his bottom type is. Okay.
Yeah, DO type.
EDFL.
Makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that was my bottom type. I think I did.
That is a lot of F there.
What's the significance of that?
We're pretty certain that you're 1F. That's the,
Mhm.
that's the main take.
You know, F stars, F with 3 asterisks.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the 1F types are all really close together as well in numbers numerically
Can
as
you
well as traditionally.
take the whole list and paste it in the StreamYard chat?
Oh, he might
Okay.
not be able to. I think I have it blocked.
I've opened up this other tab, where it just says more about the type, I believe. Yeah, that one just talks about the merchants. But yeah, you want me to try and I can try and screen grab it. Yeah, it doesn't select very well. Maybe if I stop sharing the screen, it will.
No, it's my website. It blocks copy pasting. I need to get rid of that.
You can do it from source, but it's probably
Yeah, sources will let you, but
yeah, I'll I'll try and save the page as a PDF. So, what does it mean for, say, someone who's got, say, their LII in socionics with first F? What does that mean?
it's actually quite common. I know a lot of LIIs that do have 1F, but generally it means they are confident over their space, their belongings, what they choose to buy. They don't want to defer to other people when it comes to that. And I don't know, it can kind of line up with just having the introverted sensing in the 2D role. What is that? Not the role position, the what do they call
Mobilizing.
Yeah, the mobilizing. It can kind of line up with that if we had to force the systems to relate to one another. But there's also a lot of LIIs that are 1E, so I don't necessarily. But for you, I would say it's just an LII that's going to be more assured over their space and their environment and surroundings. And even if they're not necessarily good at, or they don't take a lot of information into consideration when they talk about their environment or think about it, they still will be confident in what they do know.
Yeah,
also, I'd like to point out that you don't really talk about stuff like your health regime and all that stuff, but I know that you're doing all that very seriously in the background. Like you just do it. You don't talk about it, but it's being taken care of, and I can tell because whenever you do mention it, it's like a matter of fact type of manner.
Yeah, and then in terms of things that you do mention, I think for you, gadgets, your physical gadgets, like what camera you're using, what microphone you're using, what like computer specs, and sort of like dual monitor setups. That's all like, I mean, there's some L involved, but that's all very, very heavy physics.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I'm not a geek when it comes to like a lot of people have criticized the quality of my mic.
Maybe they're 1F too. and they're just criticizing you based on their opinion of what you should be using. So.
I think I'm able to save this as I'm going to save this as a PDF, and then I'll send it to Santa.
Okay.
All right. So, what do you think of the test, Ben? I know initially you had a hard time like parsing through some of the nuance, but
Well, I mean, it was all right. I mean, it's again just that stuff where it's like when it was like this is easy to handle, and some of those, as Laura said, where you just had the two options. But at least each of the options had got me thinking. It's difficult to say what I would think of the test without first knowing more about the theory of it, and then I could compare the theory to the test.
Well, I'm sure you're going to have fun listening to the chat later on, because we talked about the theory quite a bit while you were doing the test.
right.
Well,
All right. So
was he listening in on the chat while taking the test and just
No.
not saying anything?
I took my headphones off.
Okay, so you weren't listening to it at all. I didn't know.
I can't do those two things at the same time.
Okay, I didn't know if you're multitasking.
ADHD, no, really, no.
okay. So I know you were supposed to be doing the test with Jonathan. I'm not sure how everyone is as in terms of like how much time everyone has. I know Jonathan's probably I don't want to speak for him, but I do know him to be a relatively quick test taker. So, but he can say for himself.
I don't know if I'm relatively quick. I'm quicker than this man. But I am. I do know now. Anyway, let's get to it. I'm ready.
Okay, so I guess we'll hop straight into. I mean, Jonathan, you know how to share your screen, right? So.
Ooh. Here we go. Right, so there's my words.
Cool.
Are you going to share the screen?
What were those words, Jonathan? I saw wise and ethical.
Empathetic. Wise, ethical, pure, shy, empathetic.
Empathic.
Empathic.
Yeah.
Well, I actually did this. I think I did this one already. I started doing the test and I stopped. So
yeah. For like the first 30%, it's this, and then it changes gears from the middle section. So
just double check this, but yeah, I trust my old self. This was correct. Ooh. Is that it? Right. Well, listen to audio.
Now we can do the same thing where Jonathan takes the test in the background and then we talk, while he's doing it, or
Is this third one reviewing my own logical opinion, or is it reviewing other people's logical opinions?
You review logic numerous times before making both, actually.
That is not helpful at all.
Well, I mean, the answers kind of involve, include the concept of being open to one or the other, or both, or neither.
I'll go with that one. I'll do what Ben did. I'll just mute this earphones in.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll talk about it while you do it.
Ben, you'll notice I'm going much faster.
Yeah.
Right. So do you want me to mute you, Jonathan?
I'll just put my earphones in.
So, what do we think of Ben's type? Other than 1F, which seems to be pretty certain.
Yeah, it's one of those three. I think the top three are good choices.
Do we have them visible somewhere?
FLVE, FLEV, and FELV.
I mean, probably not. I mean, based on how he was responding to the questions, it was like the V questions, like it was either the third or fourth attitude for most of them, so probably not like FV.
Right. Definitely low V.
For sure.
I think 3L is probably.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, in talking and listening to him, his type seems fairly straightforward, FELV.
Right.
But I am curious about the test and why.
Yeah.
I'm always curious about why, especially sixes get their certain types on tests.
Yeah. I will say he's relatively secure with 3L. Like even though he does obviously do that whole thing where he goes in circles and asks people's opinions, and then forgets the opinion.
I would say he has a 2L subtype.
For sure.
Yeah.
And it seems heavily focused on process logic.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think it mostly, like what I was trying to explain in the beginning, it mostly comes out in how difficult it is to change his mind once he's settled on something. Like he doesn't. That's how he's not open to other people's input very easily. Like it's possible, obviously.
Yeah.
So that I think is very 3L instead of 2L.
Yeah, like for me with 3E, it's like I always listen to other people's like opinions on like politeness or like how to behave, or like opinions on like art and like movies and stuff. But it's like nope. Okay, cool. Thanks for that. I'm glad I asked you. Just threw everything out.
Right.
I suppose I might be a little bit more to use Ben's favorite term, contending when it comes to logical stuff, because I do think that people can be wrong. I'm not like blindly open to everybody's point of view, but I think I still listen to it more than he does.
And furthermore, I think you.
Yeah, I mean, you can listen to somebody's point of view and then still have your own opinion about it. Listening doesn't mean you agree with it.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and Santa also seems to want to know why. Like, why do I disagree with this person, or what makes them incorrect, or and willing to dig into that with kind of an open mind. Whereas 3L will want to shut it down. Their immediate reaction is going to be to shut it down, and they might dig into it if they're secure about logic, but they may also not. Depends on the mood.
Well, in my opinion, he's 1F and 3L.
Mhm.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, and then if he's lower on volition, that would only leave FELV by elimination.
For sure.
Yeah.
And I'd be curious, Ben. Ben,
Is he?
do you have an interest in like occult type things or stuff like that, Ben?
Well, only insofar as I think the collective unconscious is a thing,
Okay.
but that's about it.
You are, however, open to people being interested.
Oh yes,
Like
Yeah.
you deal with a lot of people that have that kind of interest.
yeah,
You don't have a problem with it at all.
no,
Yeah, that's a defining trait of what I found of the Pentes or the fifth sextas. They're often very interested in the past, and that leads them into like being curious about the occult and just what humanity has learned from the past and how we can apply it to the present. And that's for all socionics types, even within Pente as well, even if they're not, a type that's generally concerned with the past.
Yeah, kind of confirm that as a Delta Pente.
Yeah.
In Model A bed, not in Model G.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we were mostly talking about Model A.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
sorry. I'm not up to speed with the different models. I've watched a couple of Ben's videos, but I don't know the differences yet.
Can I ask what's the main difference between sexta-wise between Anna and Bente?
Yeah,
They
so
seem to have some similarities.
yeah, Annas are more. I want to be sure about my words here before I say them. So Annas want comfort in their immediate surroundings, and they also they tend to not want to bring people into their spaces unless they are very sure of who they are, and they'll kind of hold back their opinions sometimes and until they know somebody more. Where Pentes are kind of loud about their opinions, and they will criticize people openly more often than Ennas. Where Ennas and Ennas will dive deep into taboo. So Ennas are like, I need to know the secret. I need to know what's hidden in this thing. Where Pentes are kind of looking at the past to see how things happened then. And then, like I said, they'll apply it to the present. But in the here and now, they don't dive as deep as Ennas do. They kind of use prior knowledge to understand what's happening in the present. So that leaves the Ennas to look more energetic, actually, which is kind of weird. You would think a process volition types would be less energetic than results, but they're more energetic and they're more noticeable in public spaces, Ennas are, and they also have more extreme emotions that they are less sarcastic than Pentes. Pentes are very sarcastic.
I think I just lost my membership.
I mean, Ennas can be sarcastic, and they also can be satirical. Like a lot of the YouTube satirical people are Ennas, like Filthy Frank, if you remember him, he's an Enna. Just all that satire category. Who's the guy that does the police? What the heck is his name?
Oh, Type Police?
No. What am I thinking?
I don't think there's a single person ever who would consider calling me energetic. Like,
But in comparison to a Pente, you may look more energetic, like the way that you come off.
yeah, if you count the intellectual sphere, which includes arguing with people on the internet, then perhaps. But if you look at real life, actually operating in the world, then no. I have a hard time imagining anyone having less energy unless they're in a coma.
What's your Enneagram again, Senna?
4.
Gotcha.
So the type that I put in my little banner thing there is the one that Bradley gave me. So he was
Well, yeah.
have an applause.
So Bradley for Enneagram professional.
Well, AP professional.
Well, I don't know. That's up to Zeke. I don't wanna...
I was actually skeptical. I came in here thinking Ben was 1L or 2L just because of his content and everything that he's put out and the hours of work put into it. I'm like, okay, he's got to be a higher L. But as soon as I started
talking,
to talk, I was like, oh, he's a 3L like me.
Then he opened his mouth.
Yeah, but for that, I mean, he's my dual. He'd be my dual in the system. So that's kind of like, yeah. Oh.
Yeah,
that's interesting. Didn't see that coming. But yeah, I thought about how I mean 2E honestly, like it was the 2E that convinced me that he'd be 3L because he seems so. I mean, I don't think Jonathan's listening, but he's always probing Jonathan for emotional reactions, like consistently on his videos. So that's like
that's true. Actually, I was just thinking that I don't see the 2E, but now that you mentioned that,
well, I see high emotion. I wasn't sure so much if it was 1E or 2E, but he's just. I mean, especially for somebody of his like socionics type, he's got a lot of emotion and expression and enthusiasm.
Mm-hmm. And that's Pentes as well. Like Pentes, they're one of the sextos as well as Dios that have those two middle attitudes, the E and the L. They tend to be outwardly expressive, and they're very they're concerned of how other people express them way more than the other 4 sextos, and I haven't figured out why. But
yeah, but I mean, Pentes and Dios are opposite sextras.
They are, but they do something very similar. They're both extremely political and opinionated about their spheres where they reign. So,
that's him. Definitely.
Yeah,
that's him.
So Pentes are political in a way that's kind of satirical, and they will be sarcastic, and they kind of group up on people that are being inappropriate or how they would consider rude, and they kind of make a joke out of it. Where Dios are like that as well in a political way, but they are very kind of by the books and like, you shouldn't do this, you should do this. So they are similar in that way, but also two different sides of it. And they don't do they find sarcasm and that sort of thing to be very of poor taste usually.
Very what? I didn't catch that word.
Of poor taste.
Of poor taste.
Yeah, but it was very interesting to hear like Ben talk about like how he has like his, I guess, to use not even socionics jargon, but Jungian jargon of FE and FI, and he feels like he has like the 2E outer shell and then his inner emotions, but he always feels like he has to like do the 2E thing and like be accommodating, and he's always like seeing I mean, he's always he's a little bit of emotional troll, like just to like get reactions from people, but also he's very
yeah, but it's not. Hang on a moment. It's not like to piss people off. It's to.
No, I know.
No, it's fun. Yeah.
Also, I want to point out that FI in Model G is actually the harmonizing function, not FE.
Right.
Well, I mean, with a harmonizing subtype like as Gulenko, I think as Gulenko says, I mean, it's like 3 functions. It's like SI, NI, and then the third one is FI.
Yeah, but I don't mean the subtypes. I mean the actual function associated with getting along with people and making things smooth between people, which is what he does.
Wow.
Yeah, that would be ethics of relations, I think.
Yeah, but I'm just saying in Model G that's mainly under FI.
Under Gulenko, yeah.
Yeah, go and go.
But
Not
under
necessarily
me,
model Ben.
I see two routes. I see an FE route to that and an FI route to that. But we're not talking about model Ben at the moment, are we?
Right.
No.
That's
But
why
I
I'm
got the
pointing it out.
result though. But it said I got FLVE.
Yeah, I saw that. I saw a lot of your L answers. You were picking the 2L, and I think part of that is because you are LII. You've got the 4D TI. It's not like you don't see the logic behind things. You do, but your disposition does come off more kind of aggressive towards outside source and making sure you know what they're trying to assert so that you can figure it out on your own, which is more of like a 3L. But I think a lot of 3Ls that are logical types will tend to pick the 2L answers. So part of that is an issue with my test and not FELV.
Yeah, and too, it seemed like those were the questions that he was deliberating the longest on.
Yeah.
What were the L questions?
Yeah, you could see the back and forth.
Wheels turning in his head, spinning.
Yeah. I mean, there's probably something to that, Laura, for the time taken is likely your third.
That would be interesting to see.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So your official diagnosis is FELV.
Yeah, the A state.
Right. I'll write that down on the file. I'll append it.
Yeah. You have to remember your type. Yeah, that would be helpful.
Yeah, I will say it's a very 4V thing. I put in your Facebook group, Rob. I put what type I thought he was, and he didn't look into it. He just slapped it onto his He just slapped it next to his other type. So without looking.
I'm not invested with
Where
it.
the preview would be like, "Are you sure this is correct?" You know,
Right.
don't put a label on me. Let me decide.
Yeah, but what I mean by that, Ben, is that identity is sort of like relative volition, and it'd be like unconcerned volition to be like uninvested in identity. So that's fine.
But I actually like it when people type me as something different.
Oh yeah, that's 4V as well.
Okay.
Completely different from me. I hate it when people don't see me. Like
Yeah,
the way I see myself.
So idealist of you, Sally. You really fit the prizing recognition and seeking identity.
I mean,
Yeah, I have all the issues that I am predicted to have.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm kind of in between both of those sides because it's kind of like yeah, I'll ask for people opinions. Okay, what type do you think I am? But then like if somebody guesses something that's just way off from how I'm perceiving myself, I'll question them about it. I'll be like, this can't be right for this and this reason, and if somebody gives me a type that for some reason I don't find desirable, then I can be kind of offended by that. How dare you put me into that group, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I will ask people until I understand the system well enough to type myself. And at that point, I stop asking. I may ask about details, like in this hangout, I was asking specific questions.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't ask people to type me.
Makes sense. What do you think, Ben, about FELV? Have you looked at it at all?
No.
Rest my case.
So let's just go through each position. So what's first F in detail?
You can go to the website.
Yeah, I've got it. But this way I don't have to read it though.
There we go.
No, I'm just saying it has all the positions listed.
Yeah, I've got it. I've got it there.
All right, so 1F, that's the self-positive. You are going to have a positive attitude towards your own conception of anything related to physics. So you know what that entails: money, base reality, objects, just your practical skills, your surroundings. And then you'll have more of a negative disposition towards other people's opinions of F. So that creates this dichotomy of self-positive, others negative. It cuts off the communication between the self and others. So you kind of are just confident, you do what you want in relations to physics, you buy what you want, you do what you need, you have your own opinions on style and everything, you don't defer to other people's. You might listen to it if you just need a quick, but you're the one that decided that. You decided you wanted to listen to the other person and take that information. It's not like you're always just open to what other people say. So that's 1F. 2E, this is where we go into positive and positive. You're positive for yourself, you're positive for others in regards to emotions. So this creates a bridge because it's the same, it matches. So this will make you more communicative about emotions, more playful, fun, exciting, more open to what other people feel, and also concerned about appropriateness, because 2E doesn't want to dissuade others, or maybe somebody who's more insecure about emotions, it doesn't want to wall them off. So because that communication needs to stay there. Now, that's not to say that some 2Es aren't going to be disagreeable. They definitely can, but they're still concerned about the information of emotions between self and others. And you see that in their disposition. It's very flexible. And then we move on to your third, which would be 3L, insecure logic. And this is where we go double negative. So we have a negative self disposition of logic, and we also have a negative disposition towards other people's opinions on logic. So these also match. So you're going to see a communication bridge between the self and others. It's just going to be more negative. It's going to be seeing it what's missing. It's going to be skeptical, and it needs to really go in depth with the information before they can make a true stance on logic. And I was talking earlier, there's 3 different phases that the third attitude goes through because it's so variable. That negativity brings up a lot of variation within that attitude. So you've got your the reactive phase, which is where you are insecure about it, but you don't want to be. So you really dig in and try to understand the rules of logic, knowledge, and how you appear to others. Then you've got the dormant phase, which is where you kind of ignore logic because it's too anxiety inducing. And then you've got the secure phase, which is where you've learned enough about it and you've done enough time feeling that insecurity that you've become secure. And that usually happens within like sub aspects of the logic. So maybe it could be about knowledge, or it could be about philosophy, or it could be about rules and how they work. But you'll become secure for one of those at a time, or multiple. And then your fourth is going to be volition, which is self-negative. So kind of a underrepresentation of your own volition, and you look outward positively towards others. So the bridge isn't really there for communication. However, you are looking outward for information. So you look for experts for how they deal with willpower, how they conserve their energy, how they best use their energy. What's the best way to get something done, to overcome an obstacle, just their responsibilities in general. 4V is going to look outward for that and feel more lax about their own. They're not going to worry about who they are and what their character is. As long as it's sufficient for the moment, that's fine. It's like a sponge, like Bradley said earlier. You're collecting that information regarding volition outside of yourself and then incorporating it until you want to wring it out. Some people will wring out all that information and they'll start somewhere else. But either way, they're not communicating their own desire for volition. It's just looking at what other people say and then incorporating it. So altogether, this makes the aesthete, which is a type that is very interested in like an overall aesthetic of their life and how they can create. They often create communities. So I'm not surprised that you have your own. but it has a specific vibe to it. And FELVs, they understand that. They always know what it is they're creating and why that's important to their community. And then they'll be very, like you, skeptical of all logical theories around them, and they'll kind of really study them and try to figure out how they work. And then they'll try to incorporate that into this aesthetic they've created.
Does sound like him.
Uh,
Especially the
with
part about
the,
community. That's exactly what he's done.
Go on, son.
No,
I
you
love
have
it.
it's you have a very specific kind of community, and I wouldn't say that you have an iron fist, but you have an iron fist. You are very specific about who you allow into your community.
That's true. Yes.
Yeah. And why would you say
Jonathan
that
just got
is,
the
Ben?
same type as Ben.
The
Wait,
best
really?
guests on
He did.
Typology, the best Typology guests on YouTube. I will make that claim.
Yeah, but how you define the best is a very particular set of qualities.
Oh yes, yeah.
That's what I was referring to.
Oh yeah. Now as for the 3V, I think you're gonna 3L. I think you're gonna get a lot of KBN INTPs and socionic LIIs who are going to get to that point of view because of the way they view, because of their philosophical views and their sort of like postmodernist beliefs, and critique of pure reason and the limits of reasoning, that sort of thing. And when I've talked to other people who are like LII, somebody like Amanda, for example, she's read Wittgenstein. And so we sort of know, and also when I talk to Dave about this, David Mark Kersey, it's like we are aware of how deceptive reasoning can be because of the difference between, say, people can mistake the form of an argument for they can mistake internal consistency for truth. So the difference between a sound argument and a valid argument, sound argument is internally valid and true because the premises are true. And so there's other things that I've learned through reading. I read Aristotle's Rhetoric and the key parts of his book on topics, Robin Smith's book on that, about it's, so for example, you can have a thing called the syllogism, where you go from two proper truths and you deduce a third thing. But a lot of the times you can have a rhetorical syllogism where you're starting with something which is probable rather than necessary, and then you get this thing. And people will look at that, and so they'll define TI and say, oh, it's true because it's internally consistent. No, it's not. So I go with the actual Jungian thing of, I can see the subjectivity. Yes, someone's system is nice and internally consistent, but you've got to look at the premises.
Ben, let's not go there.
But that's just an example of what I look at. Other people, the way they define TI, they just concentrate on, they confuse TI with logic.
Ben, you're just trying to have that argument again. I'm not gonna go there now.
How
common?
Jonathan.
Okay, we're at over 3 hours already.
Yeah, Jonathan. So you can hear us, right? Yeah.
So I'm good. Yes.
Go on, Jonathan.
And you.
Got FLVE. Now, I was not expecting that. I think you're pretty much a 1L type, but
Me too.
I'm curious.
Yeah, I kind of agree.
Okay.
Definitely. I think 1L would make more sense.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't really know you well enough to say, but
Some
you
of it.
seem pretty confident in your logic. So, Yeah. I guess I would say 1L, but I don't know about the rest.
Well, some of the questions about taste and food and comfort and stuff, I do have allergies that kind of affects it, and I do notice
Mm.
things like that.
Do you know the theory? Like, have you looked into it?
I have looked at the theory, yes, so it's a bit tricky.
You haven't typed yourself?
Well, I thought I was 1L actually. Everyone else did, but I can kind of see this. So I think it was more the way the questions were phrased and how I understood them. It was all.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. LFVE came up there at 28 points. That's like the little outlier, but logic looks like it's always high for you, although you got a lot of 2L. I mean, that's a lot of 2L. That makes me wonder.
Yeah. It's 5 out of 6, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-mm.
Interesting. Well, what do you think about when other people go against you and your logic or challenge your logic? What is that like for you, Jonathan?
It would depend on what they're
Oh.
challenging me on.
I'll just say I've got a rude interruption to make here,
Go for
which
it.
I apologise for beforehand. But Jonathan we did a video on these Enneagram 1 for him a few years ago, and he does like to do this sort of like steel manning thing of like testing his arguments. So he's very much prepared to. Do you want to elaborate? Do you want to elaborate on that, Jonathan?
Steel manning is a logical technique. It's not just about your own. It's more about the other person's argument. It's like the opposite of a straw man, basically.
Yeah.
With a straw man, you're doing the weakest possible interpretation, or a weak interpretation of the opponent's arguments. Whereas with the steel man, you're doing a strong interpretation of their argument. It's about fairness.
Right. Interesting. Yeah, even the way you explain that now is very 1L. It's like, hey, this is what this thing means. It's not like it's not digging, it's monologuing rather than like the communication of logic. More like how Santa would do, where it's like and Bradley, they kind of bring in and evolve and bounce it back on the other person. Or you're kind of like point by point, 1L, I'm confident in what this thing means.
Oh, it could be that I'm confident to you, but I know where I fall short. I know where my limits are and where I'm having a grasp. Like I might know if someone's plenty of logical fallacy, for example, but I'll be bothered that I won't be able to like immediately recall what the fallacy is or be able to properly explain it or.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense.
So I kind of got a question. So like when you're talking about digging here, like is it different than just asking like some clarifying questions? Because sometimes I'll find myself asking a lot of questions. I don't really understand, this part or this part, and I'm trying to dig deeper to really understand it. But maybe that's not the digging that you're thinking of, like when you talk about what.
Yeah. Well, it's digging.
So what's the difference, I guess?
Yeah. Well, it's like digging with the intention that the other person will bring more information that you can play off of, rather than digging so that you can get your understanding correct, which I think is what 1L does. 1L they'll ask for a clarification, but it's like 1L thinks, okay, I have this opinion. I need to make sure I have it correct. Let me ask a clarifying question. Or 2L is like, I have an opinion, but I also want to hear more opinions from that other person because maybe it will lead me down to a different opinion myself. So the 1L has decided what they've wanted to learn logically. The 2L may have or they may not have, but either way, they're still trying to evolve it into a conversation overall.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks. Well, sometimes though I don't have an opinion. Like if it's some brand new topic that that I don't know a whole lot about. I may not have an opinion one way or another. I'm just trying to understand what it is exactly. You know, like,
Right. So imagine this: you have 1Ls will often have a blank slate, but it's backed by this. Just think of all these wires like under this blank slate that are like they know how they can create this logical system. They just need to get somebody to start giving them information so they can start creating this or growing their tree or whatever on their own. Does that make sense? Where 2L is like everything's a giant forest and they're gonna mix and match all these 20 different trees, and you know it can. They aren't coming at it with that intention, that 1L intention to begin with, where it's like, no, I'm going to create my understanding just by looking at some other things, and then you know that's not the intention.
So we've got 8 viewers at the moment. Any possibility of any super chats out there? 8 viewers. Right. Right, I'll go back to the.
Which aspect was that?
1F.
That makes sense because I would never ever do that.
Yeah, Pentes, man. Pentes.
This is high quality content.
I shared it in my group. I think some people are in here watching from there.
Oh, good.
Cool.
Hope they subscribe.
Subscribe to Ben.
Like and subscribe.
Like and
and
subscribe.
don't forget to ring that bell for notifications.
Yeah, I know, but I feel like I shouldn't have to say that though. Although I did create this like graphic to put on the side here. Yeah, but instead of saying, instead of like telling people to do it, I just put, have you clicked like? Have you commented? Have you subscribed?
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, do you have any questions, Jonathan, about how vested are you in the understanding like what type you are? Because we can sort of clarify if you want to.
I don't know. I'd rather. Part of me just wants to figure it out for myself.
The 1L.
1L. I got this.
I will say I do pay a lot of attention to my physical comfort, and if I'm not comfortable, it's not easy for me to think things. I have to be comfortable in order to think through it.
Interesting.
Also, you've got Jonathan here, like with he's 1 and he's 5 in the tri-type, and so he's got that strong and he's contending. So you put all that together.
I've also got types. I would expect when I think about it, I can expect gut types to have strong like physical, because there's an element of you need to be comfortable if you're a gut type, or you want to be comfortable. You know how to make yourself comfortable.
Yeah, me and well, you know this, Jonathan. Me and Catherine kind of have been talking about the correlations between the two. I was talking about a little bit with her, but there's a very, very strong correlation between Enneagram 9 and 1F. I mean, not to say there's 1Fs that aren't other types, obviously, but most 9s are 1F.
Yeah.
Now, most 1Fs aren't 9, but it does work the other way around. So there's definitely something there. And a lot of 8s tend to be 1V, and then a lot of 1s tend to be 1L. So it kind of lines up with each of that center's, penchant for control.
Well,
So would you say?
one moment, I would say that
1E?
just for a different angle on that, about with the F and the 9, is a lot of SI DOMs are 9s.
Yeah. And you're talking in MBTI or?
Yeah. Well, both.
Okay.
I would say in Kersey and Socionics, SI DOMs.
Yeah.
A lot of them are 9s. Go on, Laura.
Well, yeah, for you both is slightly different than it is for us. Like I don't know if Model A SI leads would be 9. I suppose they.
It probably would have been better if I kept the. If I actually talked through what I was thinking.
Well, I noticed that in both systems, like they'll talk about SI, and then Type 9, kind of like, this emphasis on like physical homeostasis and not wanting things to change much.
Well, there is also the aspect of wanting your environment to be free of conflict, which is quite 9. So that would be
And I wonder if it could be kind of SI too, because it's like, well, if you have conflict, then it kind of messes with that inner sense of homeostasis.
yeah, exactly.
Because then you got to put the energy to go in and deal with the conflict. And
yeah. Well, and also in Model A,
I've heard like some SI types that like they'll say conflict, like literally makes them physically uncomfortable.
Yeah, that does with Dave.
Yeah,
it does with me. It's like Dave is very conflict avoidant, and he's got 9 in his trifix.
And I relate to that, too. Like if there's a heavy, heated, emotional conflict, like it can cause me to feel bad physically.
I feel bad about
even
it
though,
too,
even
but
though
I probably
even though I'm 4F, but I do got that that SI mobilizing in there. So it's kind of like it's sort of something that I'm seeking and striving for is that that physical well-being.
And also you're sensitive to the opposite, the extroverted sensor, which is like more challenging, and so it's like you're not as focused on the upside of SI as much as say an SI Dom, but with the SE break, you are very much aware of the downside of SI. You know what I mean, like discomforts and like being in conflict and things like that. You're going to be very sensitive to that. So.
Sorry, did I miss anything while I left, or
depends on when you left.
Oh, maybe like 2 or 3 minutes ago.
Oh, I don't think so. We're just talking about Enneagram 9 and its correlation to 1F.
Oh, yeah. Okay, yeah. I caught the beginning of that. So.
But it's a type I find hard to understand, the 9.
Huh?
It's a type I find hard to understand.
Really? Yeah.
Really?
What do you find hard to understand about it?
Well, because it's the lack of a sort of a clear. When someone's a 9, it's like they've not got a clear motivation that you can sort of latch onto and read. I just personally find it difficult to understand.
Well, I know that the 9's, like the 9's core fear is fear of separation. So I suppose like the 9 is behaving the way it does to kind of avoid being separate from others.
Okay. Hold on, but before we get into this, I think we should.
We're going into too much on a tangent.
Yeah, I think we should end the video and then talk off air.
Okay.
The one V has spoken.
Yes.
Well, let's right then, folks. So, any super chats?
We need like a timer or a buzzer or something.
Right then. So I'm gonna stop the broadcast unless someone has a question out there. $100 question? I've been prepared to extend it for $100 question.
Oh man!
What gets me is Peter Schiff. Like he's like a multi-millionaire, and he's like people are giving him $100 questions. And then
you can use your 1F to make money off of this.
Right.
Right.
Right. Okay. So I'll end the broadcast. So here we go.